Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning from Canada's west coast. It is morning. So, it's early morning and I didn't sleep, I didn't sleep as long as I thought I would because of the trauma that was caused to me by the world's number two. No, well, maybe he's the number one narcissist. You got your, and I'm talking about James Henry, so that you don't, so you're not in the dark. He was on the show last night, and he's been on the show a couple of times before. Like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times, and he has shown himself to be a very angry, acrimonious, vindictive, jealous, needy, um, arrogant, haughty, full of himself type person. Exactly the same. Exactly the same personality that Darth Dawkins has. And yet, James Henry, James Henry, he wants to come onto the show and talk about how much Darth Dawkins is a this and that and the other personality type. When James, dude, you're exactly the same. So this man is hateful. He's not welcome on my show anymore. Last night he did say goodbye in the most hateful and personally insulting way he possibly could, because it makes him feel better, you know. So, if any of you have had experience with James Henry, the room will be open. I'm not even sure if I'm in that room yet. No, I'm not. So, it will be open. But I had an agenda. I could have thought I had an agenda. Yes. I wanted to talk about these narcissists, James Henry and Darth Dawkins. But I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to let Professor Sam Vaknin talk about them. So firstly, he's going to talk about, let's see. He's going to talk about James Henry and Darth Dawkins in the first video. They're not very long, 5 minutes the first one. And then the second video, he's going to be talking about probably more Darth Dawkins. And then in the third video, Professor Sam will be discussing, and this is a more of a longer one, how it's actually you'll enjoy it. We've watched one of these before and we enjoyed it thoroughly, didn't we? So I'll keep that one just a secret until we get there. But the first one here, he talks about both Darth Dawkins and James Henry. This is what he says.
My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. The narcissist is constantly on the lookout for slights and insults. He is hypervigilant. He perceives every disagreement as criticism, and every critical comment as complete and humiliating rejection. The narcissist perceives every disagreement, let alone criticism, as nothing short of a threat. He therefore reacts defensively. He becomes indignant, aggressive, and cold. He detaches emotionally for fear of yet another narcissistic injury. He devalues the person who had made the disparaging remark, the critical comment, the unflattering observation, the innocuous joke at the narcissist's expense. By holding the critic in contempt, by diminishing the stature of the discordant conversant, the narcissist minimizes the impact of the disagreement and criticism on himself. This is a defense mechanism known as cognitive dissonance. Like a trapped animal, The narcissist is forever on the lookout. In his mind, there's this dialogue, or monologue, rather. Was this comment meant to demean me? Was this utterance a deliberate attack on me? And gradually, the narcissist's mind turns into a chaotic battlefield of paranoia and ideas of reference until he loses touch with reality and retreats to his own world of fantasies and unchallenged grandiosity. But here's the rub and the twist. When the disagreement or criticism or disapproval or approbation become public, the narcissist tends to regard them as narcissistic supply. Only when they are expressed in private does the narcissist rage against them. Public commentary, even unfavorable, even if negative, is narcissistic supply. The cerebral narcissist is as competitive and intolerant of criticism and disagreement as is his somatic counterpart. The subjugation, subordination of others demand the establishment of the narcissist's undisputed intellectual superiority or professional authority. Alexander Lowen wrote an excellent exposition of this hidden or tacit competition. The cerebral narcissist aspires to perfection. Thus, even the slightest and most inconsequential challenge to his authority is inflated by him. Hence, the disproportionality of his reactions. When confronting adversity fails, some narcissists resort to denial, which they apply to their extensions: family, business, workplace, colleagues, friends. Take, for example, the narcissist family. Narcissists often instruct, order, or threaten their children into hiding the truth of abuse, malfunction, maladaptation, dysfunction, fear, pervasive sadness, violence, mutual hatred, and mutual repulsion, which are the hallmarks of the narcissistic family. Utter sayings like, not to wash the family's dirty linen in public, that's a common exhortation. Whole family conforms to the fantastic, grandiose, and perfect and superior narrative invented by the narcissist, to the narcissistic confabulation. The family becomes an extension of the false self. This is an important function of these sources of secondary narcissistic supply: to comply, to affirm, to uphold, and to buttress the false self, if necessary, by denying reality and by pathologically and recurrently lying about it. Criticizing, disagreeing, or exposing these fictions and lies, penetrating the family's facade, they are all considered to be mortal sins by the narcissist. The sinner is immediately subjected to severe and constant emotional harassment, guilt and blame trips, and to abuse, including physical abuse. This state of things is especially typical of families where sexual abuse is prevalent. Behavior modification techniques are liberally used by the narcissist to ensure that the skeletons do stay in the family cupboards. An unexpected byproduct of this atmosphere of concealment and falsity is mutiny, rebelliousness. The narcissist's spouse or his adolescent children are likely to expose.
Okay, I think here I'm having a problem figuring out, is he talking about Darth Dawkins or is he talking about James Henry? He seems to be discussing both of them. They both exhibit these very same narcissistic traits that Sam has mentioned.
The narcissist's vulnerabilities, his proneness to secrecy, his self-delusion, his aversion to the truth, and they are likely to rebel against him sooner or later. The first thing to crumble in the narcissist family is this shared psychosis, the mass denial and the secretiveness so diligently cultivated by him. The criticism and disagreement that he so avoids are bound to haunt him and catch up with him sooner or later.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. How long have I been muted for? Hopefully not too long. Anyway, I'll repeat what I said. The, that Sam, Professor Sam, he was talking both about Darth Dawkins and James Henry, and I was specifically referring to James Henry, how he last night overstepped a boundary, overstepped. I wasn't muted long enough. Ow! Good one. I stepped into that one. Um, I I think James Henry has pretty much. I said he hasn't just overstepped the line. He has leaped the line. So he has shown himself to be a harsh, extreme misogynist. I can't handle that. I can't take that. I won't stand for that on my show. And he's also shown himself to be extremely anti-Jewish, politically anti-Jewish, politically anti-Zionist. I mean, he accused me of, "You Zionist, you're a Zionist, you're a Zionist." Yes, I am. I'm a proud Zionist. So fuck you, and fuck anybody else who has a problem with that. I can explain my way. You can't. So yeah, that was James Henry. He pretty much imploded on himself. Internal anger. Ooh, horrible stuff. But why shouldn't I let you see more? Yeah, listen to more about. This is probably more related to Darth Dawkins. You know, the way he has an issue with his children. He's got a disabled child, and the way he hates his disabled child, as we all know. Professor Sam might have some insight into that. So, let's take it away, Professor.
My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. What happens when the narcissist becomes a father or a mother to a disabled child, challenged child, intellectually or otherwise, or a sick child, chronically ill, weak, and frail?
I think this is he's talking about Darth Dawkins here. Hello, Wild Eden.
The narcissist regards his disabled or challenged child as an insult, a direct challenge to his self-perceived perfection and omnipotence, a constant nagging reminder.
Sorry, Sam. Secular pagan mom. We'll get to James Henry after Sam has done his work. Okay. Thanks.
And source of negative narcissistic supply, and the reification and embodiment of a malevolent and hostile world which tirelessly conspires to render the narcissist a victim through misfortune and catastrophe. The precarious foundations of the narcissist's false self.
Bill, that happened last night. I'll probably bring it up and go through the hatred that this guy, he was off his nut. Anyway, let's get through this first.
And therefore his ability to function are undermined by this miscegenation. Relentlessly challenged by his defective offspring's very existence, and by the persistence of its attendant painful reminders, the narcissist lashes out, acts out, seeking to persecute and penalize the sources of his excruciating frustration, the child and his mother. The narcissist holds the mother responsible for this failure, not himself. She brought this shame and perturbation into his otherwise fantastic and orderly life. It was she who gave issue to this new fount of torment, this permanent reminder of fallibility, imperfection, mortality, impotence, guilt, disgrace, and fear. To rectify this wrong, to restore the interrupted balance, and to firmly regain an assured sense of grandiosity, the narcissist resorts to devaluation. He humiliates, belittles, and demeans both the unfortunate child and his suffering mother. The narcissist compares their failings unfavorably to his own wholeness. He berates and mocks the child and his mother for their combined disability, frailty, weakness, meekness, and resourcelessness. He transforms them into the captive butts of his unbridled sadism and the cowed adherents of a cult-like shared psychosis.
Isn't that like, you don't get worse than that as a father, Darth Dawkins? You just don't. You actually went there. Wow.
Serves them well for having thus ruined his life, figures the narcissist. Casting himself outwardly as a compassionate proponent of tough love, the narcissist eggs his charges on mercilessly. He contrasts their slowness with his self-imputed alacrity, their limitations with his infinite grasp, their mediocrity with his genius and acuity, their defeats with his triumphant life, real or imagined. He harps on and leverages their insecurities, and he displays his hateful contempt for this mother-child dyad with a fiery vengeance whenever he is confronted, criticized, or resisted. The narcissist may even turn violent in order to enforce the discipline of his distorted worldview and delusional exegesis of reality. By reducing the child, by confronting the mother, the narcissist feels elevated yet again. Bonding and attachment in infancy are critical determinants and predictors of well-being in adulthood. A small minority of children are born, indeed, with dysfunctions, such as attention, hyperactivity, deficit disorder, or Asperger's disorder, or some other kind of autism. These dysfunctions prevent the children from properly bonding with or attaching to a primary caregiver, mother in most cases. Environmental factors such as an unstable home, parental absenteeism, or a disintegrating family unit also play a role and can lead to the emergence of reactive attachment disorder, RAD. Toddlers adapt to this sterile and hostile emotional landscape by regressing to an earlier phase of unbridled, self-sufficient, and solipsistic primary narcissism. Disabled and challenged children of narcissistic parents may well end up being narcissists themselves, a sad but inescapable irony. Narcissistic parents of seriously ill children derive narcissistic supply from onlookers, friends, family, colleagues, and community. And they do that by attracting attention to their role as saintly caretakers, selfless and sacrificial. They are demonstratively and ostentatiously patient, compassionate, suffering heroically, and dedicated to the child, its welfare, and ultimate healing. They flaunt the child's sickness as a kind of a hard-won but well-deserved medal. Down in the trenches with their tortured offspring, doing desperate battle with a pitiless enemy, the disease. It is an intoxicating part in the unfolding film that is the narcissist life. But this irresistible craving for attention should be demarcated from the sinister affliction colloquially known as Münchhausen by proxy syndrome. Patients afflicted with a factitious disorder colloquially known as Munchausen syndrome, seek to attract the attention of medical personnel by feigning or by self-inflicting serious illness or injury. Munchausen by proxy syndrome, factitious illness or disorder by proxy or imposed by another, or fabricated or induced illness by carer, there are many names. Well, this disorder involves the patient inducing illness in or causing injury to a dependent, child, an old parent. And they do this in order to gain, in their capacity as caretakers, the attention, praise, and sympathy of medical care providers. Both syndromes, Munchausen and Munchausen by proxy, are forms of shared psychosis, folie à deux, or folie à plusieurs, forms of crazy-making, with hospital staff as unwilling and unwitting participants in the drama. Superficially, this overwhelming need for consideration by figures of authority and role models, like doctors, nurses, clergy, social workers. This resembles the narcissist's relentless and compulsive pursuit of narcissistic supply, which also consists of attention, adulation, admiration, being feared, noted, etc. But despite the superficial similarities, there are some important differences. To start with, the narcissist, especially the somatic variety, worships his body and cherishes his health. If anything, narcissists tend to be hypochondriacs. They are loath to self-harm and self-mutilate, let alone fake laboratory tests and consume potentially deleterious substances and medications. They are also unlikely to seriously damage their sources of supply, for instance, their children, as long as they are compliant, of course, and adulating. As opposed to narcissists, people with both Munchausen syndromes desire acceptance. They seek love, caring, relationships, and nurturing, not merely attention. The landscape of the Munchausen disorder and Munchausen by proxy disorder patients is emotional. And they have emotional needs that amount to more than the mere regulation of their sense of self-worth. In other words, they look for more than attention, while narcissists are looking only for attention. People with Munchausen have no full-fledged false self, unlike the narcissist. There's only a clinging, insecure, traumatized, deceitful, and needy true self. Munchausen syndrome may be comorbid, can be diagnosed with personality disorders, though in both cases the patients are pathological liars, schizoid, paranoid, hypervigilant, and aggressive. There are still massive differences between people who are diagnosed only with personality disorders and those who are comorbid with Munchausen. While narcissists are indiscriminate and promiscuous when it comes to their sources of narcissistic supply, anyone will do. Patients with Munchausen syndromes derive emotional nurturance and sustenance mainly from healthcare practitioners. So we should not confuse the two mental health categories. Still, in all these cases, the child is a prop in the adult's theater of life.
Yes.
He is a pivot.
That's right.
He is to be used, abused, and when it comes to his own, when it becomes autonomous, when it becomes critical, discarded.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Darth Dawkins, the way you treat people, your own family, your own children. So yes, Bill, I'm spoiling. Come on in, everybody. I want to talk to you about James Henry. I want to show you what James Henry is all about. Now, Henry Handsome. Welcome to the show, Henry. Okay, so you mentioned actually, and quite correctly, that James Henry was kind of behaving himself the other night with Rebel in the room, and he was being very courteous and very chivalrous, etc., etc. And yes, he was. But last night without Rebel, he just let loose on me, and then he went into overdrive. I think it's something that's been building up ever since we first had our first disagreement. When I first called him out, maybe even the first or second night that I spoke to him, I called him out and I said, there is, I'm I'm a Gnostic atheist. I'm a strong atheist. There's no possibility of God. Doesn't it's irrational, illogical, impossible, because there's no need for God, because reality is reality and there's never been anything else. So he's got a problem with me over that. He's got this usual sort of Christian sort of do you know everything bullshit, right? But anyway, I wanted to discuss him. So if anybody would like to join me, and especially if you missed it last night, it was I was actually kind of taken aback, a little startled by his hatred. I never expected that from him. I really didn't. Okay, let's see. This was James Henry all cleaned up. No, this is about James Henry. He yelled and screamed, and he promised me that this was the last night was the last time he's ever going to be in my room and ever talk to me again, because he can now see me as I am. The usual crap. So I'd like to revisit that, because he said some nasty things. I mean, he tried to present himself in the beginning as somebody who's objective, but he is everything but objective. He's angry, and every single time he challenged somebody, it was like, yeah, come to my face, come to my front door, and we'll see what happens. So I kind of did the same thing to him. Come here, come to my front door, I'll fuck you up first thing I see you. Bang, I'll get you in the face. Yeah, I don't think you like that. So, I'd like to see his, reaction to all that kind of nonsense. But angry. What is it with people who hold onto mythology as reality that makes them so fucking angry? Honestly, I don't have anger towards anyone, any person. Ideas is another thing. But people, every morning you wake up, you're a kind of a different mood or a different. You can't take your burdens one day to the next if you can possibly help it. So I try, I wake up every day, you wipe yesterday and every other day before that, or wipe yesterday slate clean, because I did that the day before, and then off we go. So, Henry, I sounded angry last night. I kind of was angry. I was shocked more than angry at what he said. But at the same time, I wasn't all that surprised in a way, because he's kind of one of these guys who's not very smart. Because he comes across as trying to, he knows everything and he's got all the experience in the world, and he has the answers, but he's not a very smart person. And he's in a bit of denial about that. So it's a little bit too bad. But between James Henry and this guy Darth Dawkins, the Professor Sam Vaknin diagnoses their narcissism to a T. It's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. Okay, the room is open to, with exceptions. If you're a preaching Christian, you're not welcome. In fact, you're most unwelcome. No preaching Christians. Okay? I'd like to present my axioms. I better do that. If I can find them. There we go. Right. Axioms of my room. These are my axioms, okay? And I don't debate axioms. There's two axioms and one claim. First axiom: all gods are imaginary. Do not come in here and try and give me some philosophical nonsense about your creator God. None of humanity, and I mean none of humanity, has any clue. And creation gods are the most unlikely explanation for anything that has a natural effect, which is what we are. Which brings me to the discipline of science. Don't argue with science. Don't tell me that you've read some ancient book and that overrides everything that scientists have collected data on over the last 100 years, 150 years. Human evolution is proven by science. There is no debate. Okay, so two things. All gods are imaginary. Don't try and debate me on the existence of God, because gods do not exist. And number two, don't try and baffle me with bullshit about human evolution not being a fact of science. Okay? And the third thing, the claim of the 11 Satanic Rules of the Earth are more relevant than the top 10 commandments of Christianity. I'm willing to compare one to the other, because I have all the graphs and everything I need, and we can go and do that. And I'll have a conversation about that if you like. Now, if you don't like to do that, if you do not like to join in this room and have a... Let me just get rid of those. I mean, not get rid of them. Let me do something about those axioms, because they're hiding my pretty face. We can't have that now, can we? Not that pretty face. Oh no, Mr. Bill. There we go. So that's the story. The room is open. If no one is going to join the room, which is a distinct possibility based on past history, then the plan is to continue with yesterday's missed episode. I wanted to bring in a lecture. It's a lecture through or at Yale University, and it is called the Historical Jesus, and you will be absolutely amazed when you find out that you've all been following a lie, I say, a lie. Now I'm gonna find it. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. I think there we go. Yes. Okay, so let me fade that in. This is Dr. Dale Martin, Professor Dale Martin. The credit has to be changed to Yale courses because that's the YouTube channel that's presenting this one. So I'm going to step away while Dr. Martin, Professor Martin, gives you the historical perspective that you deserve to hear and listen to and watch. And I'm more than happy to entertain anybody on the Meet, on the Google Meet at any time, especially after this little presentation. So I would, if I could find him, I will say, take it away, Dr. D.
Okay, we've already talked about the problems of using these texts historically. If you remember, early in the semester we talked about Galatians 1 and 2 and Acts, and we tried to compare exactly when did Paul go where with regard to Jerusalem, Damascus, Antioch, and we saw that it's very, very difficult to harmonize Galatians 1 and 2 with the account of Acts and Paul's movements around Jerusalem. We've also got a lot of other situations where this would be very difficult. I mentioned the difference between Matthew and Luke as far as the birth narratives. According to, just to try to figure out how this would work, if you took the birth narratives of Matthew and Luke, it would be very, very difficult to find out historically what happened. So for example, if you just take Matthew, as I've said before, his family seems to simply be in Bethlehem. It doesn't say they're from Galilee. It doesn't say they're originally from Nazareth. They're just in Bethlehem. And they're in Bethlehem well before Jesus is born because the wise men in the east see the star, and it takes them enough time to travel from Persia. We're supposed to understand from the narrative because they're called magi, and those are wise men from Persia, all the way to Jerusalem. They meet up with King Herod the Great. He gets his wise men to consult. They then find out they're supposed to go to Bethlehem. They journey to Bethlehem, and then they get there not long after Jesus is born. So according to Matthew, you don't have any time actually in the narrative of Matthew for the whole moving from Nazareth to Bethlehem narrative that you get in the Gospel of Luke. You just don't have time in Matthew. They're just there. And then the angel appears to Joseph in a dream and says, Herod's going to kill all the babies. So Joseph takes the family. They move to Egypt for a while. He gets another dream years later. How many years? Who knows? But saying that Herod the Great is now dead. So they go back. They start to go back to Bethlehem because it says that's their home, right? They go back home. They're going to go to Bethlehem. Instead, they move to Galilee to avoid Herod's son, who is at the time, according to Matthew, ruling in Judea. That's the sort of narrative. You get to Luke, and it's very different. They're from Nazareth. That's sort of Mary's hometown is Nazareth. All the pregnancy of Jesus takes place with Mary in Nazareth. She even goes to Judea to visit her kinswoman Elizabeth, who's the mother of John the Baptist, according to the Gospel of Luke. And then she goes back to Nazareth, and then it's according to this census, the world census, that they go to Bethlehem. And it's why they're in Bethlehem in the stable, because you don't have a stable in Matthew. They're just maybe in a home, or according to a lot of traditions, there was a cave somewhere that Jesus was born in. But it's in Luke that you get the whole story about the Christmas story about the stable that Jesus is born in, because there's no room in the inn. They stay in that area for a month. We know that because it says that they first have Jesus circumcised on the 8th day from his birth, and then the time of purification takes place according to Leviticus, which is about a month long. They take Jesus to the presentation in the temple in Jerusalem, and it's after that, so a month or so after his birth, that they then move back home to Nazareth. Now, there's no way you can basically get these two narratives to fit together in any respectable historical way. Does that mean that nobody's ever tried to do it? No, of course, you've got all kinds of very, very smart fundamentalists who believe that the New Testament has to be accurate in every historical and scientific detail, or they believe then it can't be Scripture. And they will figure out some way to try to make sure that both these narratives can be fit together. But what I'm telling you is that no reputable historian will accept this because you just have to fudge the stuff too much. You have to fudge the data. So what do we believe about the birth of Jesus? Most of us think we don't know anything about the birth of Jesus. All the Christmas stories are later tradition. Probably the one thing that most of us would say is that Jesus probably was from Nazareth. His family was simply from Nazareth because he's called Jesus of Nazareth. And the traditions that got him to Bethlehem for his birth are probably later pietistic traditions that Matthew and Luke later developed for different reasons, but to get Jesus born in Bethlehem for fulfillment of prophecy reasons. So if you take the birth of Jesus as in Luke and Matthew, it's from a historical point of view, it's impossible really to harmonize them without coming up with fantastic, unbelievable conjugations of Jesus moving back and forth to Egypt and the Holy Family and all this sort of thing. We get lots of other kinds of things about this too. What are some obvious historical problems with a historical Jesus? Well, one of the things is the trial of Jesus. There are different versions of the trial of Jesus in the Gospels. And unfortunately, basically, most scholars will say that we don't really know what happened to the trial of Jesus. We don't even know for sure whether there was any kind of official trial. It may have been that he was just arrested in the middle of the night. He was just then they've given permission to be crucified, and he was crucified the next day. That would be the sensible way of doing things. You didn't have to have, the Romans didn't need elaborate trials in order to crucify Jews who were rabble-rousers in the first century. They did it all the time. But if you look at some of the details of the trial, notice how they're very different. Mark 14, get your Bibles out. Today we are talking about the historical Jesus, but I'm not just going to tell you what I believe or what scholars believe about the historical Jesus. I'm going to try to show you why scholars come up with ideas that we have, how we get there. What is our method for arriving at historical Jesus discussions? So look at Mark 14, verse 53. In the wrong place. They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes were assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he was sitting with the guards, warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. For many gave false testimony against him, and their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We have heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another not made with hands.'" But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But he was silent and did not answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus said, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven." That's a quotation from Daniel. So Jesus basically just says, "I am," and then quotes Daniel.
Can you hear me?
And then it says, the high priest accused him of prophecy. And then look at chapter 15. Beginning of chapter 15. As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you." But Jesus made no further reply, so that Pilate was amazed. Now notice, all Jesus says at his trial, according to Mark, the oldest of our written testimonies, is "I am," and a quotation of Scripture at one point, and then "so you say," in the next trial before Pilate. Now compare that to what goes on in the Gospel of John. I mentioned this a bit in my lecture on the Gospel of John, how its narrative details are very different from the Synoptic Gospels. One of the places where this is really different is the trial of Jesus. John
All right, we're back. I got too many screens open here. I couldn't figure out what to close, what to open. But you're on, Khalil.
Oh, what's up? What's up, Sidney?
Well, I'm just making coffee, listening to a lecture, trying to agitate for atheism. You know, the usual.
What happened with you and James the other night? You guys were getting along just fine.
Oh yeah, last night he let me have it. Woo! Boy, you
I
know,
haven't seen the episode. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
I was thinking of actually doing a reaction to it. But man, I found out that I was a fucking. You know what I found out from how bad I am as a person?
Mm.
I'm a Zionist.
A Zionist?
I'm a Zionist. Yes. You don't.
Why are you a Zionist?
You don't get much worse than that. I'm a secular Zionist.
Mm. Mm.
You know, and a staunch one. I'm sort of a one-state solution kind of a guy. But that's neither here nor there. That's in countries that we don't live in. Although I have lived there.
You have lived there? You've lived out like towards like Palestine and Israel?
I've lived in Israel, yeah. That's why I speak Hebrew.
Okay. Oh, you speak Hebrew?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I take Mr. Batman, and I take those people who think that they can that they know the Bible. I challenge them to talk to me about Genesis 1 in the original language, and let's translate it. Let's interpret it without having anybody else do the interpreting for us. So I have that advantage. But Mr. Batman's run away ever since he challenged me, and I took him up on it. He ran away.
I wouldn't deal with Mr. Batman. He's just going to call you a pedophile and claim victory.
Yeah. He's brainless actually. He's your signature, your poster boy for white trash.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
So, Sidney, I haven't seen a lot of your videos, but the ones that I have seen, it's kind of like targeted at someone or multiple people, and you just spend the whole time talking about that person. Do you have any episodes that you do that are on like subjects?
I target Christianity.
Okay.
In fact, I was going to target Christianity in this episode. And specifically, I was going to target the Trinity with the 3 laws of logic, and how the 3 laws of logic show that the Trinity is impossible, is nonsense.
So you're aware of the logical problem of the Trinity in academic fields?
Well, it's not in academic fields. It's in reality. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, no. I'm saying the what's called the logical problem of the Trinity that is discussed in academia.
Right.
How would you steelman the argument, the position that shows that the Trinity violates the classical laws of logic?
Well, the second law of identity says you can only be what you are. You cannot be something else. At
the same time, in the same way.
At the same time,
you can transform into something else, but you can't
but
be
at the same time, exactly. Now, the Trinity says like God is the Son, God is the Spirit, but the Spirit is not God, and Jesus is not the Spirit, and all this kind of stuff. So right away, the Trinity violates that second law of logic by claiming to be 2 different things at the same time.
Well, what if the Christian just says that they're making a statement of predication and not a statement of identity?
Then that's a lie.
Well, what if that's what they believe, that they're saying that a statement of predication would kind of be like Clark Kent is strong like Superman? What if they were to say the Father is divine like God?
Yeah, well, they can say what they like. They can make up anything they want.
Would that solve the problem?
No, because there is no such thing as look. It's bad enough having the one God, the Allah or the Yahweh, to deal with. Okay, because I can steel man that. I can understand where you're coming from with your one God concept. I get it. But with the Christians, I don't get it. I do not get their logic. I cannot reconcile these three essences or three substances in the same person or God knows what. It just makes no sense. It just means, to me, it seems like it's a lazy man's religion. Absolutely makes no sense. Anybody can just claim nonsense without backing it up, and end the story. Whereas,
so
sorry,
I've been studying the Christology and the Trinity for a little bit now, and I would actually disagree with you and say that if they do make a statement of predication or a statement of relative identity, that they have gotten out of this first problem. Now there's tons of other problems that come later on, but the violation of identity and non-contradiction simply just stems from if they say the Father is God. If that is a statement of numerical identity, that means that everything about the Father, the person of the Father, is exactly the same as everything about the being of God. And if they say that the Son is identical to God in the same sense, it would logically follow that the Father and the Son would also be identical to each other. But they're not. The Son suffered on the cross. The Father is the one who knows the hour. Right? So there are distinctions between the Father and the Son, which means that they cannot both be identical to God and also distinct from each other. That is the violation. Now, if they just say that the Father is like God, well, then that's fine. There's similarities between the Father and God, and there's similarities between the Son and God, which gives the ability for the Father and the Son to have distinctions between each other. And they've gotten out of the problem. Like I said, there's more problems that arise later. But do you see how that could solve at least this initial issue that you have?
No, I do not. Because the law of identity, number one, A equals A, right?
Yeah.
So God is God, the Son is the Son, the Spirit is the Spirit, la 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 la, whatever. Nothing. You can't have exceptions.
Yeah, but the Son is the Son. That's fine. But the claim is that the Father is God. So the A and A is the Father and God. So within identity, they would be saying that the Father is God, just like Clark Kent is Superman.
No, it's not. It's just
describing
like, okay,
the same thing.
Okay, you're right. That's how the author of the story made it up. And if the author of a story made it up for Superman, and they made it up for God or Jesus, whatever, fine. But it's all made up.
Well, fine, that's all made up. I'm just saying, like, through an internal critique of someone's belief, whether we believe it's true or not, which I'm actually in agreement with you. I think the Trinity is complete bankruptcy. But I would simply say that if they make a statement of predication, or they say that the identity lies within the essence, that the Father and God are identical in essence, that's called reduplicative predication, and it falls into many other problems. But the law of identity at that point in time and non-contradiction, whether they go relative identity or statement of predication, there's no longer a classical law of logic that's at that point being violated from what I've read and even some of the other non-Christian philosophers I've spoken to.
Well, nobody can explain the Trinity in a coherent way.
I agree. I'm just saying that that first problem that we both would have, if they say numerical identity, fine, we got them. They're done. It's done right then and there. But if they say like a predication or relative identity, then you would have to go into further questioning, like, why is there, if God is an infinite being, why isn't there an infinite amount of persons? What necessarily stops God from being three beings? What stops it at three? There's questions about
once
that.
Once you start with an if, then it's open season on responses, which is just what you did. You said if God, etc., etc. Well, fine, all right. If God, then make up whatever you want.
Yeah, but then you do an internal critique on that claim right there, and if God is an infinite being, which they believe he is, so they would say God is an infinite being, well, then why isn't he infinite persons? If he has multiple persons, what stops it at 3?
Absolutely. If he had multiple persons, he could be whatever you say. But it's all because of the if. If P then Q, I got it. But P does not, there is no P. You say, if God, then everything else, fine. I got you. I'm with you on that one. However, there is no God.
So what would your first-hand problem be with the incarnation?
Incarnation. What is an incarnation?
So the incarnation is when Jesus Christ, in John 1, it states that in the beginning the Word was God. The Word was with God, and then you go down to verse 13 or 14, and it says the Word became flesh and dwelled among us. So when Jesus came down and took the form of a human being, what would your problems with that be?
My only problems would be that it's taken seriously by human beings of an intellectual nature. I can't believe it. That's the only problem.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the story. Yeah, a story's a story. But the
fact... Do you think... Sorry, go ahead.
No. Do I think what?
Do you think that it would be a logical problem to say that Jesus is God, and God by definition is omniscient and all-knowing, but yet in Luke 2:52 it states that Jesus grew in wisdom? Well, so how could the person of Jesus Christ be both omniscient and also not omniscient?
Yeah, but first you've got to define your God into existence, and then you can start defining whatever you like after that into existence. Because that's really all it is.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm not going to argue against if their God actually exists or not from like an externalist view. I'm going to do an internal critique. I'm going to be like, whatever you think the Bible is saying, I'm going to go ahead and grant. Yeah, I'll grant them.
What is the process? Because I've heard you use this phrase many times. What is the process that you use when you do an internal critique? And I'm going to mute because I'm going to go run and fill up my coffee cup. So the floor's yours.
Okay, sure. So when I do an internal critique, I'm simply saying that I'm granting the person that I'm speaking to everything that they are saying. I'm going to grant them the storyline, what they think the Bible is saying. If they think the Bible is talking about Jesus Christ coming down and taking on human soul and human body, that's fine. I'm not going to argue against that, like saying, well, the Bible doesn't actually say that, your interpretation of it's wrong. I'm not even going to argue interpretation or text or anything like that. Let's just say, okay, fine. Let's go with what you believe. Let's go with what you're saying the Bible is saying. So let's look at that and see if there's any internal contradictions that violate classical logic, to where, like I was saying with Jesus, if he's all powerful, then he doesn't need to eat, sleep, poop, breathe. He doesn't need to do any of that stuff, but yet he does. And in Luke 2:52, when he grows in knowledge, and the other verses where it says that he has to ask the Father's permission, and when he destroyed the fig tree because the fig tree wasn't producing any fruit, any figs. He didn't know that that the fig trees weren't in season. He didn't know the hour like the Father knows the hour. He grew in wisdom in Luke 2:52. So if Jesus is God, and God is omniscient and all-knowing, and yet Jesus learned things, the question is then, doing an internal critique, logically, how can Jesus be both all-knowing and also not all-knowing at the same time in the same way? That would violate non-contradiction because...
No, it wouldn't, because God works in mysterious ways.
Well, no, I mean, you can call it a mystery after I pull out the contradiction, but but that's when I shake your hand and say, okay, I'm gonna walk the other way because you've just brought true contradictions into reality, And now I don't even know if I'm talking and also not talking. That could be a true contradiction. Reality could be reality and also not reality. That could be a true contradiction. So there's no way for me to communicate with someone that think that contradictions can exist in reality.
All right.
And I believe, and I'll make this further claim, that I believe in Islam, that you can't draw any contradictions like that cannot be resolved.
Look, I don't have an argument with Islam. I have an argument with Christianity.
No, sure, yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that I reject Christianity because at a fundamental level, as a minimum standard for me to even entertain an idea, it has to be logically possible.
Yeah.
It cannot violate the classical laws of logic. Or if it seems like it does, it needs to be resolved. Christianity
I think,
doesn't work at all.
Exactly. Now, I think that Islam and Judaism at the very beginning was very egalitarian, and I think it grew over time to become patriarchal. And that's another issue I have with these monotheistic religions.
Yeah. The idea of the Trinity actually didn't come about until the 300s.
That was a construct of the Roman. Well, not a construct, but it was the Council of Nicaea when they got their bishops together. That's what they came up with by consensus.
And also,
by consensus.
In the Council of Nicaea, a lot of Protestants will deny this, but the Council of Nicaea talked about the Father being the one who is ase, who holds aseity.
Exactly.
And the Father is uncaused, while the Son is eternally begotten or eternally caused by the Father, and then the Holy Spirit spirates from the Father through the Son.
Yeah.
So there's actually a subordination going on within the Trinity, to where the Father is like the top dog, and he has always been begetting the Son. The Son is eternally begotten.
You know what all that reminds me of in real life? It reminds me of the Warren Commission into the magic bullet that killed John F. Kennedy. You know how they made up a story how there's only one bullet killed, killed JFK and injured the guy in front of him, the governor, and somehow injured the I don't know. It just this magic bullet seemed to travel all around the place in random fashion. That's what that Trinity reminds me of. It's all over the place. Makes no sense.
Yeah, Council of Nicaea, the doctrine within there is speaking specifically about what's called divine procession. So how the Son and the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father.
Yeah,
you can't have three co-equal beings, right? You're three co-equal persons if two of the persons are dependent on the Father for their existence.
That's why I'm surprised and shocked that Arianism didn't win out over Orthodoxy, because it makes much more sense. And I think Christianity wouldn't be so laughed at these days if the Orthodoxy was Arianism, where
they'd be able to maintain monotheism if they did that.
Absolutely. And you know what? We'd all be at peace. We'd probably all get along with each other a little bit better if we could. If that was one thing that everybody agreed on, that there was one absolute God, and everything else sort of descends from that absolute God, including Jesus, then everybody would get along because there wouldn't be so much to bicker and argue about.
Yeah, that's possible. That's true.
So let's work towards that, okay? Let's work towards swapping Orthodoxy, Roman Catholicism, with Eastern Orthodoxy, and let's get it done. Let's get it done now.
I agree. But yeah, so all right, so we've gotten two of the three huge problems that I have. What do you think about the atonement?
The what?
The atonement.
What's that?
The act of Jesus Christ dying on the cross to redeem mankind of his sins.
Nonsense. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense.
Any logical problems?
Yeah, it makes no sense. How does one person dying have any consequence on anybody else's life, at least on everybody else's life from before his time and until the end of the human species. Makes no sense. And also, there's no evidence. And also, if somebody died for my quote unquote sins, then I can't sin. So it just doesn't make sense.
Well, so the problem that I have with it is that in 1 Peter 2:24 it states that Jesus bore the sins of mankind. Now, prior to me bringing that verse up, whenever I ask a Christian, what are sins? What is the definition of sin?
Exactly.
He would say they're actions that transgress against God.
They're subjective.
Yes, so these actions are things that people commit. And Jesus bore these actions, right? Mm-hmm. So if Jesus bore these actions, that means the actions were transferred from us to him. Which means, like, for example, like if I was speeding on the highway,
you're right. Yes,
then that action should be able to be transferred to somebody else in the sense that I would no longer have been the one that was speeding. Correct. But I don't think there's any amount of magic that could actually get you to transfer actions to other people. That doesn't make any sense. And the further problem is that Jesus was apparently sinless. So how is Jesus sinless, but yet transferring people's actions that are sins to himself? He's sinless and also not sinless.
All of our sins are transferred to Jesus, so Jesus carries all the sin. Jesus is the most sinful person.
Well, let's be charitable here. It's not everybody, right? If we go to John 3:16, it states, because God gave his beloved Son, his only begotten Son, to die on the cross, so that anyone who believes in him would have everlasting life. So you need to believe in him first before your sins are transferred to Jesus.
Now nobody can make any logical sense out of that ever. I challenge anyone to make logical sense out of that.
Well, I mean, I think it's more of a moral problem really than anything right there, because, I mean, Sidney, if you were sitting on the stand and you had just killed a family of 4, and a guy came up and you were about to get the electric chair, and a guy came up and said, hey, I haven't had anything even as small as a speeding ticket, not even a parking ticket or a traffic violation, never, not even a warning from a cop. I'd never been pulled over.
Yeah.
But what I'll do for you is I will freely volunteer, Sidney, to take your place and to die in that electric chair for the things that you've done. Okay. Would you accept that?
Absolutely. Of course. What am I, an idiot?
Well, then it does make sense.
What makes sense?
Jesus dying on the cross.
Okay.
I would not accept the person dying for me.
If Jesus died on the cross instead of me, then I get you, but he didn't. I'm the one that commits a crime, and somebody says they'll take the punishment and die instead of me. I'm good with that, no problem. But at least I did commit the crime, and I know I committed the crime. So what you're saying is that Jesus died on the cross, but nobody's committed any crime. And I can't reconcile that with the whole idea of, as you say, atonement.
I'm very confused. You would actually let a sinless person volunteer to take your place to die in the electric chair for your actions?
Sure, if the law allows it, why not?
Because it's extremely immoral and unjust, and that's the whole reason why most atheists deny the atonement.
It's not immoral. It might be. Well, that's your subjective opinion. For me,
well, yeah, sure.
For me, it's a matter of saving my life or death.
Well, so righteousness and doing what's right is kind of thrown out the window at that point.
No, if I force somebody to die for me, that's a bit of a moral problem. But if somebody wants to die for me, maybe they're terminally ill anyway. Whatever, fine, go ahead.
Do you believe that people should be morally responsible for what they do?
I don't. I think I prefer to use the word ethical or ethically or ethical and not moral, because moral to me causes problems when it comes to religious morality. So I prefer to use the word ethical where it's...
Yeah, sure. But I don't even want to talk about religious morality. I just want to talk about what you think is moral and what's not. Do you believe?
Can we use the word ethics, what
I
I
mean,
think is
sure,
ethical?
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you believe that people are ethically responsible for what they do?
Yes.
Okay, so then if you've done something that's ethically wrong, then you should be responsible under your own model. You should be responsible for the consequences that come with that, not letting somebody who didn't
I never
do
said
that.
I wasn't responsible, and I'm quite prepared to accept the consequences. But in your scenario, somebody volunteers to take my place on the electric chair. The law allows for it. I'm not breaking any law by allowing somebody else to take his life instead of mine. I'm actually doing a good deed.
Doing a good deed?
Yes.
Well, you're the one who was killing people, not the other guy.
I didn't refuse to go to the electric chair. I accepted my responsibility for the crime, and I'm prepared to pay my debt to society by being fried on the electric chair. But you said some guy wants to do it for me. All right,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sure.
I mean, my personal opinion, I would never, ever, ever accept that. I would say, no, you haven't done anything wrong. I'm the one that did what I did. I should be held morally responsible for what I did wrong. You should not sit in the chair for me.
Okay.
I deserve this.
I think I'd win the survival of the fittest competition.
I mean, I guess.
Come on, how can you not want to preserve your own life?
Because there's things that are greater than me.
What is that? That doesn't really mean anything to me.
Well, I mean, so are you Sidney, like down to the very core of your being? Are you only worried about yourself?
No, not at all.
Okay, so do you think the world might be a better place without somebody going around killing families?
Undoubtedly.
Okay, so then why kill the innocent man? Why not get rid and eradicate of the one who is killing families, regardless of if it's yourself or not?
Absolutely. If I'm the one who's convicted and sentenced, I surely am the one to fry on the chair. But
sure, but
if
even,
a guy
even
comes
if you
up
have
and
options,
says, if a guy comes up and says to me, "No, you don't have to fry. I'll fry for you," I'll say, "Be my guest," because I'm a gentleman.
well, regardless of if there's options or not, I think the same position still stands, is that we should, even with options, try to get rid of the thing that's causing harm to the community. The innocent man didn't cause any harm to the community. The guy who killed people did. So even if it's myself and I'm the one that's causing harm to the community, I should refrain from killing the innocent guy so I can just be free and go do what I did again and cause more harm. Let's just get rid of the thing that's causing the harm.
I hear you. Okay,
that's just my position.
Okay, I hear you. Let me ask you another question. Okay, so you're the serial killer, you get caught, you get convicted, and you're on death row. Do you have plans to escape at all, or do you just accept that you're on death row and you're not thinking of escaping?
No, I don't escape. I did that. I was sentenced to this. I'm going to spend the rest of my time doing my time like I deserve.
See, is that ethical?
I believe it's morally justified.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even think it needs to be justified.
Why then do you jump to an ethical approach to your sentence, but there's no ethical approach to the crime that you committed?
What do you mean?
What I mean, all of a sudden you become ethical after you're convicted of a crime, but during the crime, obviously, if you're a serial killer, there's no ethics, sort of nudging you and saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this."
Well, we can have bad influences at times. I mean, there's people that have spouts of rage and fall into their emotions and don't think logically.
Oh, yes.
And then afterwards, they're like, "Oh shit, what did I just do?"
Listen, I'm not a serial killer, But sometimes I get into a rage and somebody dies, and it happens, never happens more than, one at a time, and it doesn't happen all the time. So just
Gotcha.
don't even look at me as a suspect.
Okay. Just hope nobody clips that part of this video out, Sidney.
I hope they do. I hope they do, and I hope it goes viral. And if necessary, I'll do a stream from jail.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't accept some innocent person taking my place. I believe I'm responsible for what I do.
I totally understand that. That's why when you asked me a question, I gave you an answer that would fit me, and I absolutely would listen. If somebody came up to me and said, "Here's your choice: accept Islam, join the Taliban and accept Taliban Islam, or there's the hole that we're going to throw you down." My God, let me tell you something. I'm Allah Akbar all the way. All the way, buddy.
Yeah. It doesn't exactly work like that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I'll preserve my life, whatever it takes. Ethics, no ethics. There were no ethics in the concentration camps. When somebody in the concentration camps in Germany, there were a couple of things that if you didn't have, your life is in danger. One of them was a plate, the other thing was a spoon, and the third thing was a hat. If any of those things you were caught without, you more than likely were sentenced to die. So if somebody stole your plate or your hat or your spoon, you go and you steal somebody else's plate or hat or spoon. There's no thinking about, oh, well, somebody stole mine. It's not right for me to steal somebody else's. So, let that be a lesson to you.
Yeah. Now this gets fishy when it comes to, like, for example, like people stealing to feed their family. I get that. And I think that's justified, right? So, but I think that they should not steal from other people that are in just as much need.
Why is it justified to steal to feed your family? I'm sorry, I don't think I agree with you there.
Well, because if you're taking from somebody else who can give but chooses not to.
But you're making up stuff as you go along. You just said stealing to feed your family, and that infers that somebody doesn't want to. That somebody's holding it. What did you say?
Yeah.
They didn't want to. They didn't want to help you, or something like that.
I'm not gonna go steal a coat from a homeless man. I'm gonna go steal a coat from the coat factory.
Well, I think that's wrong. I'm a very, very strong believer in property rights, and in the intrinsic.
I don't think you are.
Yeah, I very much am.
Then you should have a right to the actions that you do. You should have a right to your
property rights. I said.
Yeah, property rights. Your actions and the consequences for your actions are your property.
Property rights.
But you're more than willing to give it up for somebody that's willing to volunteer for you.
I said property rights. I didn't say liberty.
I didn't say liberty. I said property.
I'm very much a defender of property rights. In other words, if you own something, like some land or a machine or whatever, it's yours and nobody else can take it away from you.
Exactly, I agree with you. But the thing is, so are your actions. Your actions are your property, and the consequences for those actions.
Your actions are not your
property. So when you kill a family of four, that is your action. You committed that action. That's nobody else's.
I get it, but it's not property. It's an action.
I mean,
property is tangible. Property has boundaries. It occupies space.
Property's tangible?
Yes, it occupies space.
Is my dignity mine?
No, your dignity is not yours. It's mine.
Oh my gosh! Come on, Sidney.
We talk about property. Come on.
I know, yeah, but I have, when I say my dignity, that implies that the dignity is mine that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but why
property.
change the subject? It's not property.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just showing you a property that's not tangible.
It's an attribute.
Is it my attribute?
It depends. Who's?
No. If I'm talking about something about me,
whose
it's my
dignity?
attribute.
Whose dignity are you talking about?
Mine.
Then it's your attribute, of course.
Yes, so which means it's property, but it's not tangible.
No, it's not property.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Because property is defined as something tangible.
Really?
Yes. Other than intellectual property.
Well, what is the definition of property?
A brick and mortar building is property. A house is property.
No. Like, I'm driving right now, or else I'd look it up. Like, hold on.
Something that you own that is land. If you have a land title or a deed to property, which is
define property.
Here's the definition of property: a thing or things belonging to someone, possessions collectively.
Okay, so a thing or things belonging to someone.
Yes.
Possessions collectively.
Exactly.
So okay, so my dignity is a thing, right? They belong to me, and I possess them.
Okay.
So my dignity meets the exact definition of property.
No, it doesn't.
My dignity is a thing. It belongs to me. A thing or things belonging to someone. My dignity is a thing that belongs to me.
My house.
It's a possession.
Your house is a thing that belongs to me. Can you sell me your house?
Well, yeah, that's a tangible thing. But
can you sell me a house? Okay, how about can you sell me your dignity? How much is that going to cost?
I actually can sell you my dignity.
Oh, cool.
That's not a problem.
How much is it worth?
Give me $1 million and I'll be an atheist.
You can be an atheist for free.
Now I've just given up my dignity at a price.
You listen. You said you are an atheist. I don't believe you're a Muslim. If you're a strong atheist to start off with, you're a strong atheist forever.
Oh, but I was a strong atheist. That was shown that I was logically correct.
If you were a strong atheist, then you are a strong atheist.
Well, that's
if you claim to have been a strong atheist, then I dispute that claim.
Why? Because you would say that I was never a strong atheist to begin with, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's called a no true Scotsman fallacy.
Whatever you want to call it.
Do. When Christians leave Christianity, they say, well, they were never a real Christian to begin with.
Well,
that's a fallacy.
Well, let's go back to what we were talking about when we mean strong atheist. Okay, a strong atheist is somebody who considers that a 0% chance exists for the possibility of the supernatural or creation, anything to do with the non-natural reality.
So they have knowledge that there are no gods.
That's correct.
Okay, so knowledge that there are no gods. Then I would say, do you know that God does not exist? They would say yes.
Then you have to speak to them. I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking.
No, but you're saying you're a strong atheist. So according to your definition of strong atheism,
hold on. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? You're just telling. Now you're telling me what my position is. I'd rather hear from you.
No.
I'd rather hear from you your position, and you can ask me, about my position. I do not want to hear your position. I mean, my position coming from you, as much as you don't want to hear your position coming from me.
Yeah, but the thing is that I can pull clips of your videos for the 5 to 10 times in the last 3 videos of yours that I've watched to where you claim to be a strong atheist. I'm not saying it. I heard you say it many times.
I'm not denying it. I'm not denying that I'm a strong atheist. What are you crying and whining about?
Well, then why are you pushing back so much? I said since you're a strong atheist, and you're like, whoa. Just accept it.
I am a strong atheist. I've never denied it, dude.
Okay, good. So by your definition of strong atheism is knowledge that no gods exist. So if I was to ask you, Sidney, as a strong atheist, do you know that God does not exist? And you say yes, then you would hold a burden of proof. That is a
Fine.
positive claim.
I'm happy with that. Yes, and I've provided the burden of
Okay, so
proof
how do you
many
know?
times.
How do you know that God does not exist?
God is impossible to exist. Creation is unnecessary. Energy or existence, reality is eternal. So there's your answer.
So to say something is impossible, you would need to draw a logical contradiction. So what is the logical contradiction? What is A and not A about a singular monotheistic God existing?
A is reality, and A equals A, which means reality equals reality. That's the axiom. Reality is reality. You can't obfuscate that. You can't do anything to deny
but no, I
that
could say that
reality
God
is
created reality.
You can't say that
I could say,
because
no, I can, and then reality would still be reality.
Where's the law of identity that you, the law of thought or the law of logic that you're referring to in that with that statement?
Well, God is God, so that's A equals A. God's also not God in the same way, so that's non-contradiction. And it's true that God exists, so there's God right there following the three classical laws of logic. And then reality is reality, right? And reality is not reality, and it's true that reality is reality. So now God and reality are all following the three classical laws of logic. I'm simply saying that God created reality, and reality is contingent upon God. What's logically contradictory about that? Can you show me the A and not A?
Yes. God does not exist, and you keep on defining God into
existence. That's the claim. I'm asking for your argument, not just repeating the claim.
All gods are imaginary, so to use God...
That's another claim.
Exactly, it's an axiom.
Just stop with the claims. Just give me the argument.
It's an axiom. Give me show me that your God actually
exists. No.
Yes,
Hold on. Let's not shift. You have made the positive claim.
I am not going
Sidney,
to argue.
You're running.
I don't
You're
care.
running, Sidney.
You're running. You're scared.
I'm not.
Because
you're
interrupting me. You're interrupting me.
Okay, I'll wait till you're done, and then I'll continue.
There is no possibility that gods exist. That is not a debatable subject. I've said to you from the very beginning.
Yes, it is.
From the very beginning, I said in this room we cannot debate God because God doesn't exist, and that's an axiom. So stop trying to bait me into this nonsense position and trying to claim some kind of a victory.
Yeah, but no, I'm not claiming victory because I think I've shown God to you. I'm claiming victory because you, as a hard atheist, have jumped into this positive claim that you're making. And when I ask you to substantiate your positive claim, you just continue making more claims without any substantiation whatsoever. So you make a positive claim and do not show your burden of proof. You do not hold to your burden.
I'm pretty sure I did, and I'm pretty sure that you.
And then you shifted the goalpost and told me that I needed to go prove something now.
No, I shifted the goalpost. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Man.
So if I was to say
why don't you just say, okay, you've got me logically again. We can move on to something else.
Because you haven't.
Because I don't want to have an argument with you because I told you before, God is not something that exists that we can talk about.
That's fine.
You cannot define your concept into a reality, an existence in reality. You cannot do that in this room.
Let's get back to the point. So if I was to say, Sidney, that I know that God exists, and you're like, okay, show me your argument for how you know God exists.
I wouldn't say that.
And I was to say,
wouldn't say that.
You've literally said that to me on multiple occasions.
I would say, what God? Explain your. First, you'd have to.
You know what God I believe in.
I do not know. You'd have to give me some details, buddy.
Come on, Sidney. Let's not play stupid. You know I'm a Muslim.
I don't care if you're a Muslim. That doesn't tell me what your God is.
Yes, it does. It absolutely, very specifically does.
Well, then I feel sorry that you're a Muslim. Sorry, man.
That's fine, but if I was to make the positive claim as a Muslim...
Actually, no.
Oh, my gosh. Hold on. I thought you were, against all this interrupting stuff.
I'd like to talk to you about Islam, actually, because I'm kind of into it.
That's fine, but I wanna finish this up and put a bow on this before we move on.
No, we're done. Let's talk about
Okay, you want to run away from it and move on, that's fine. I'll take your concession.
Let's talk about the religion.
I just want the viewers to see how Sidney doesn't want to talk about this anymore.
Do you want to talk about your
He's
religion?
running.
Do you want to talk about your religion?
Absolutely. I would love to talk about my religion.
Okay, I want to get into it. How do
I'll let you slide away from that problem that I had you stuck in.
Don't pretend that you've won something when you know you haven't.
Oh no, I'm not pretending. I know.
Oh, you know. There's another thing. I want to get back to this internal critique that you keep on mentioning. How does that work? I tried to ask you about the process of that internal critique, and you've spent the last 25 minutes running away from that question. Can you please get back to it?
No, I actually explained it. You said you.
Oh no!
No, Sydney. If you do rewind this,
is it too difficult?
If you do rewind this,
is it too difficult for you to explain to me?
I'll wait till you're done. I'll wait till you're done acting like a 4-year-old.
With your insults, it's not very Islamic.
And this is so narcissistic, bro.
Yes, you should stop that.
No. You are being a narcissist right now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, I was saying, you got up. Okay, I'm just going to leave if you're not going to let me talk.
That's fine, because I also have a right to talk.
So you can continue with your narcissistic episode.
Yes, and I have a right to go then. Let me talk.
Okay, go ahead and finish up. I'm not going to listen to anything that you're saying, and when you're done, I'm going to continue saying what I was trying to say before.
I have no problem with that, but don't say anything until I tell you that you can say something. Okay, don't interrupt me when I'm talking. Don't interrupt me when you disagree with me.
Okay, Darth.
Is that a compliment? Because you guys are on the same mindset when it comes to monotheism. So why do you compliment me when you're my adversary? How does that work? Now you're confusing me. First you try and insult me, and then you compliment me. Can you explain yourself?
Oh, are you giving me permission to talk now?
No, actually, I'd rather have somebody else.
Okay, so ask questions that I'm not able to answer. Go ahead, keep going.
I'd rather have somebody else come and talk to me, because you're becoming annoying right now.
Yeah, I know. This is the second time to where I've made this episode not go very well for you.
Okay, and you've absolutely buried me, and you've made a fool of me, and all this kind of
absolutely.
stuff. Yeah, all right. Well done. Congratulations.
All right.
See you later.
I appreciate that.
Bye-bye. Pretty slow to find.
Are you going to kick me, or are you just going to sit there?
No, I'm not going to kick it. I never kick anybody.
Okay, good. So I'm going to stay here then.
You can leave of your own accord.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. You said bye-bye, and I'm not sure. I was wondering why you said bye-bye.
Well, you said you were going to leave.
No, I didn't. I said I could leave. I said I'll just leave if you're going to continue to interrupt me. So anyway, Sidney, I was saying.
Talking about 5-year-olds having an argument.
Yep. So like I was saying, to get back to the point.
Yes.
Like I was saying, if I came to you and said that I know that Islam is true, and you wouldn't need to ask that God question. You would say, well, okay, prove it to me. Show me your God. Prove your God. Like you've said many, many, many times before. Prove your God, or show me your God. Well, what can you do to prove your God? Right? So then I would give you an argument, right? And if I was just to say that the world could not exist without God, that would just be another claim, right? And reality has to be created by God. And it's impossible for it not to be. You'd just be like, bro, you're just making claims and you're not substantiating anything that you're saying. See, this is how you are doing the same thing right now by saying God does not exist. I ask for your proof, and you say it's impossible. Well, that's just another claim. What's your argument? What's your substantiation? Well, it's logically contradictory. Okay, what's the contradiction? Well, it's an axiom, so I don't need to argue that. Axioms on trial. Is this Cease to Know?
No, it's J Mike.
What up, J Mike? Okay, so me and J Mike do not agree on a lot of stuff. What do you think about this, Jay?
I literally just joined the conversation, so I have no idea. My ears.
Well, this is the E.A. Dawa show, as he's obviously taken over.
He knows who I am.
Okay, hold on. There's so much. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's chill. Let's relax. So much talking. What's going on right now? Why do I hear like 8 voices at once?
Well, you're obviously got two sources of audio coming in. You should.
Oh, okay. It's on my end. I figured it out. I'm the idiot. Now continue. I'm sorry. I'm like, why is there fucking 8 voices coming in at once? It's because I have the YouTube video open.
We're ahead of you.
Okay.
So J Mike, if I was to tell you that I know that God does not exist, right? I'm a hard atheist, a strong atheist. And somebody was to say, and you were to say, what is your substantiation for that claim? That would be a positive claim, a knowledge claim of God not existing. And you say, what's your substantiation? And my response would be, it's impossible. Would that just be another claim, or would that be a substantiation?
My question would be, what's the logical contradiction?
Exactly, yes. And I also asked him that too.
Oh, did you? Rewind.
I did. I literally asked you what.
You better rewind.
What the A and not A is.
I can't really speak on what you guys had a conversation on, but I am curious on like the idea though, like.
Okay, this is let me quickly.
Real fast, Sidney. Real fast. I'm really. So like I understand the idea of like comparing worldviews and stuff, and seeing like where like explanatory virtue lies versus maybe simplicity, kind of like what Graham Oppie kind of takes on. Like I get that, but what I don't get is like the idea of pointing out, necessarily having to point out contradictions in a worldview, and what that does for your worldview. Because like, right, we could just grant that you could talk to someone who's like a proponent of dialetheism, right? Like they just think true contradictions exist, and you could just say contradictions don't exist or whatever, right? And we could just agree that person's just wrong. But pointing out that their TV doesn't work doesn't elucidate that your TV turns on, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's not substantiating my belief.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure where the flag was planted there, because I didn't know if I heard something opposite of that or not. So that's what
I don't think by proving by showing that he cannot substantiate his strong atheism gives any type of credence towards Islam being true.
Okay. So yeah, so basically the idea of what I'm positing is that like you would just concede, yeah, I still have all my work left ahead of me, right? Like that.
Absolutely. To prove my claim, yes. But I'm saying when a strong atheist says they know that a God does not exist, I'm going to ask them for their justification for the positive claim that they made.
You'll get it every single time.
And if they just return and say when they return and say it's impossible, they have just made another claim. They haven't substantiated it at all.
But this is just the beginning of the conversation. This is not, this is Jack and this is Jill, run, spot, run. This is way above that level.
So then what's your argument, Sidney?
What, for something that doesn't exist? Are you crazy?
How do you know that God does not exist? That's a positive claim.
It's a ridiculous claim. Because
I agree it's a ridiculous claim to make. Yes.
It's a concept.
Sidney, I'm a little confused myself.
Let me talk when I'm talking, all right? It's a concept that mankind has made up. Okay, that's simply where it's at right now. And I don't take it any further than that.
Okay, so my question to you would be, like, you're taking like an epistemology that is to say, essentially everything does not exist until proven some justification that it does. Is that how you're? I'm just trying to understand your epistemology.
Supernatural and anything to do with it is pure conjecture through the mind of mankind, through the limited mind of mankind. That's it.
Okay, essentially everything is conjecture until proven otherwise. But
everything.
I'm wondering if you. I'm sorry. Hold on, real fast. I'm wondering if you're. Sure, but I'm wondering if you're making a further point to say like that the ontology of what you're claiming doesn't exist, right? Because epistemically, I can understand that the ontology in question might not have like a substantial evidence, and it's imaginary until proven otherwise epistemically. But I'm wondering hold on, real fast. I'm wondering
you gotta use layman terms.
Okay. So by epistemically, Sidney, guys, real fast, please let me just get a point through. I'm really bad at getting interrupted. I get frustrated. So when I mean epistemically, I mean how you know. Okay, there's a distinction between ontology and epistemology. Okay, when you're making claims towards like Khalil or whoever believes in God, right? That's the ontology, right? The thing that they believe in, right? the difference between the thing that they believe in versus the reasons that they have to believe is the epistemic reasons. Okay, it sounds like your epistemology is saying that you just think epistemically these things aren't justified until proven. I'm on board with that. Hold on, no, I'm not done. I'm not done. This is the most important. Sidney, this is the most important part. This is the most important part.
Then get it right, okay?
No, I'm not trying to argue. I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to understand.
You're trying to present my point, which is in an.
But you are listen. The statements I've heard, you are adding ontology there, where you're saying that the thing doesn't ontologically exist until proven otherwise.
I never said.
The state of affairs don't matter towards your opinion.
I never said it doesn't exist until proved otherwise. I said it's impossible to exist. Don't you understand the difference between?
Okay, well, so that's a different claim.
It's
yeah, that's a different claim.
And that there is a possibility that it exists.
That's a different claim.
Now, hold on a second. But our friend Khalil here, he says that his God exists, but there's not 100% possible that it exists, but it's more than likely that his God exists. So there's a possibility that his God doesn't exist. I do not hold.
So I do not hold with fallible.
I do not hold that point of view with regard to the possibility.
Hold on. I don't want to get muddy, Khalil. I don't want to get muddy here, real fast, because I just want to make this point.
All right.
This has nothing to do with anything I have. Me and Khalil have way more things to argue about that me and him are laughing on a side note, right? Saying that we're not trying to team up on you, because if anything, me and him should be having a conversation against each other. But I have to agree with him when you make a claim like it's impossible. It's impossible in virtue of what? A contradiction? What is the reason? If Khalil is just simply asking you for the reason why God is impossible, that isn't a thing to get defensive about. It's asking for the argument.
Then let me answer.
Okay, yes, I would just be curious too, because I'm an atheist, and I'm just curious on how you cash that out.
It's impossible because there is, because of the law of identity, where A equals A, where reality equals reality, there is no such thing as a non-reality. Okay?
He takes it as an axiom.
It's an axiom. Exactly.
He says God's non-existence is axiomatic.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to understand. So I understand the law of identity. I understand A equals A. I'm understanding the entailment there to the impossibility of some ontology.
Reality is reality. You agree?
If you're just saying A equals A, yes, we can just fill that in with anything. My Coke can is my Coke can. It doesn't really matter what we put there.
Exactly, yeah. But we can agree that reality equals reality.
Yes.
Okay. We can also agree that reality exists and we know it.
How are you defining knowledge?
Excuse me, did I say knowledge? I said, okay, let me...
You said know it, so yeah, I just want to know what your criterion of knowledge is.
Let me start again. A equals A, reality is reality. And nothing else. Okay? We know, because we're part of reality, we know that reality is extant. Because we're part of it.
Okay, so look, the issues I have there in terms of when you say words like no, but I get way more into the weeds on that than probably
there's nowhere to go.
People care about to listen to, but
you're a subset, and you're part of a universal. Therefore, if you know that you're part of a universal, then you know you exist as part of the universal.
Cool. So what we've established that you've given me so far is that, right, reality is reality, right? Okay, cool. A is A. I grant it.
Good.
I don't know where the entailment, there's issues I have when you make statements of we know it's extant, right? When you say we know, I'm wondering if you mean justified true belief. And if you say yes, I'm like, what about Gettier cases? We can throw that to the side for right now.
Stop being pedantic.
Sure, I'm not going to be pedantic. But my point is that you actually haven't, even if I grant it all, you haven't actually gotten to the point of the impossibility part. So
yeah, that's what I've been trying to do for the last 20 minutes.
Is reality. We accept that. Let's see if we can get past this. Reality is...
I'm going to grant these, yes.
Okay.
No, we're good. Yes, move on. Yes.
Now you have a problem with the definition of reality. Let's get past that.
No, I don't have a problem with the definition of reality. It was just when you make claims of knowledge, I'm just curious on what you define knowledge as.
That reality is reality, And when I said we know that reality exists, all of a sudden you got a problem with knowledge.
Yes, because when you talk about yes, Sidney, real fast. We don't have to get into the weeds, but if you're gonna keep bringing up my criticism, let me elucidate on why I brought it up. Because when you make a statement, it's a claim, another claim nested in these claims that you say, we know reality. That might be a claim towards the ontology of what it is, right? I don't, mind you, like, why should I have to go down solipsistic routes? Because I don't think that we have justification. I'm a skeptic, so I'm going to challenge that.
I'm getting annoyed by that background that I hear from you. Every time I speak, I've got to hear some screaming in the background. It's
okay. I really don't care what you think. I care about what the actual arguments are. So,
okay, well, then let me make my argument and keep quiet while I talk and make my argument, like I've let you do yours. My argument.
No, you haven't.
I'm trying to understand your point, and I'm trying to be thorough, right?
Exactly.
Because you keep making certain claims nested in other claims. So I'm trying to understand that.
Let me finish talking in order for you to be able to respond.
Okay, this is also a dialogue. So if you say 8 things, I gotta stop you and ask what you mean by that.
I'm gonna
understand. Is that not a terrible thing to do?
I will mute everybody until I'm finished talking. If you don't like it, you can leave right now.
Look, I have no problem with you, Sidney. All is nothing personal.
Quiet.
I just want you to get to the entailment.
Okay, I'm going to get to the entailment.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't have one.
Okay, I'm going to get to the spoiler alert and spoil the spoiler alert.
Look, I'm an atheist. This is nothing like personal. I'm just asking for the entailment. And we shouldn't take this long.
You do realize that I'm answering you, so just...
Yes, go on. I will mute my mic. Go on.
Thank you. When we agree that reality is reality, we agree that reality exists, obviously. Okay? Now,
yes.
Now that we know that reality exists, we can affirm that we are part of reality, and it's apparent to us that this reality that we live in is the only one that we can possibly know. We cannot know anything other than the natural world. The natural world that we live in is an effect of a natural cause from before Planck time, which we don't know what, but we know it's natural. So to define
that doesn't follow.
Let me finish. So to define
how does it follow that it's natural?
Let me finish and I'll tell you. So to define some kind of a supernatural explanation to something that is obviously natural because we are natural and reality is natural is to beg the question. And this is what you guys do, and this is why I do not debate it, because
I'm an atheist, dude. So they don't have to tell me I beg the question. I'm not a theist. So stop. It doesn't follow. Look, stop. It doesn't follow. Stop. It doesn't follow to say that it must be natural.
Why not?
Because we should clip this out and put it on our channel.
Because
why doesn't it follow?
Because I have a lot of friends that are atheists. Look, stop.
Why doesn't it? Hold on a second.
Lest I someone like Danny, who I know. Stop, real fast, man. When I say stop, if you hear recordings of me, I tell people to stop all the time because I get annoyed if they won't stop. So it's nothing personal.
When I say stop, I mean you stop, okay? You stop. Thank you. How does it follow that a natural occurrence is not preceded by a natural effect, a natural cause?
When you talk about the beginning of a natural thing and you're trying to say that a natural thing follows before that, right? I don't even know what that means. But second of all, there's no contradiction in someone like who I know, like Danny or what's his name, Jack's position.
I don't know who these people are.
There's people I know. I don't really know them like well, but people I've talked to. Well, yes, thank you. So people who are non-naturalist atheists, right? This idea of like painting this as you have to be a naturalist is just a mistake.
Because
it can't be the case that Yes, but you're making it, look, I'm trying to be thorough. You're making an entailment about God is impossible. And the first hurdle, we're just dealing with a non-God world here still. And I have an issue with the idea that you're like, it must be natural, right? We can't even get to the God part because you already have flaws at the beginning of it.
To get to. You don't get it. Talking about God is like talking about nothing. And I don't want to talk about nothing.
Okay, Khalil, like, should I bog down the facts that he's making certain entailments about, like, so I don't know, maybe Khalil might disagree with this. Like, my point here is to point out that when he posits this dichotomy, or I guess this like Cartesian assertion of like it has to be natural, right? Couldn't an atheist who's a non-naturalist, I don't know your opinion as a theist, but couldn't they just disagree with that, right? We're not even at the entailment of the God part.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could ask Dr. Alex Malpass, who's a Platonist. I mean, and he was
perfect example. So we can't. Would I be wrong in stopping him to try to figure out? Because in the premise, he's making entailments towards like naturalism, right? But the problem is if I just point out non-naturalists, and we haven't even gotten to God, there's an issue before you've made entailment to God in the first place, which is what the view is committed to in the first place.
You can just reject his premise that has naturalism inside of it and ask him to justify naturalism.
Sure, exactly. Like if somebody rejected the first premise of
he's simply just going to say he takes naturalism as an axiom.
Exactly.
Anything that he can't provide an argument for is an axiom for him.
Reality is an axiom, my friend. My friends.
Is naturalism an axiom?
Look, you can choose whatever axiom you want, like I guess, but it doesn't mean it's a good place to start.
Reality is axiomatic, and it's natural.
Look, I can agree with like starting with sense experience. Like I don't have a problem. Sidney, I don't have a problem with your epistemology of starting.
You guys are barking up the wrong tree.
It's not stop making it personal. This is nothing to be personal. I'm just attacking the argument. I'm sure you're a cool guy. We'd probably grab a pint and have a fucking great time.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, maybe not. Okay, that's your prerogative. My point is this has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the arguments. Okay, I do a show. I do Talk Heathen. When atheists call, I'm the same way. Okay. It's nothing to do with your position. If there's a flaw in the argument, I'm just going to point it out. I don't care what position you are.
That doesn't make you correct in every single thing that you say just because you do.
I'm not making claims. I'm pointing out why your claims aren't substantiated and why they fail and why I don't accept them.
What does Talk Heathen have to do with your failure to make a point?
My point is this is nothing personal, right? I do this all the time. My point is that this is not personal. You're making it personal.
Why do you feel guilty that it might be personal when no one's pointed out?
Because you're getting defensive rather than providing attestation for the argument.
Why don't you worry about yourself? Thank you for concerning.
Then fine. We can drop all the meta and just provide actual attestation for the arguments.
We can't do that.
Okay, how do you come to a non-natural concept? What's your concept? What's your concept of non-natural?
Sidney, I'm a naturalist, okay? But I'm not. I'm trying to show you why it doesn't follow.
Well, what is your concept of non-natural?
Hold on, real quick. Let me just try and break it down for Sidney real quick.
And look, I don't die on a hill for certain positions.
He holds the same position you do, Sidney. He is a naturalist, a physicalist, a materialist, just like you are, but he says that your arguments are bad.
That's because he doesn't know. He doesn't understand the difference between
he has
reality.
Much more philosophy than you've ever thought about.
He doesn't understand the difference between reality and
dreams.
Oh
my gosh, no.
It's not about like studying more. It's not about studying more. It's not even about that. It's the idea that
just because
I'm not sure why he's so
whenever somebody says that,
the funny thing is that this episode is talking about Darth Dawkins and how he overtalks everybody.
That makes me distrust him even more.
Sidney, no, I'm just not sure why you're so wedded to naturalism that you're willing to not recognize that this is just a bad argument. There are better arguments.
There is nothing else.
I can't even get to the other premises because there's already flaws in them.
You can't argue for something that doesn't exist.
Look, I don't believe God exists. This has nothing to do with that. I'm just saying your arguments are flawed for them.
You're just saying whatever you want to say, but you have no backup.
It has nothing to do with what I want to say. I don't look, dude. This is nothing personal. I just care about this stuff. If an argument is sound, I want to know it's sound. This is not sound.
But you're very angry.
And especially as a naturalist, I don't want naturalists making bad arguments.
You're very angry with your approach.
I don't.
No,
look,
he's not.
I don't really care how I come off. It's just so meta. I don't care. I'm not worried about what people think. I'm worried about what the argument is and whether or not it's sound.
The argument is God is impossible.
That's not an argument. That's a claim.
That's the axiom. God is impossible. Right? There we go. That's the axiom that you walk into this room, and that's what you live by.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Sidney, now that J. Mike is here, and now I've been here trying to do this, like his name, your axiom is on trial, and you're not doing a very good job.
Look, I came in here to challenge Khalil because on one thing, and he cleared up the first part, right, which was like, I thought he was making some entailment to other people's worldviews. And he was like, no, I agree. I have all my work left. Boom, solved an issue. He recognized that if he had taken that claim, which he had never done in the first place, but if he had, right, maybe there's a situation where he recognizes, oh, that's bad, and he backs out. But it wasn't even that. It was just like, yeah, that's not the case. We moved on. But I'm pointing out issues with yours, right? We'll go back over the issue.
You're just
okay. We can point out the exact issue if you want. I can show you where the premise fails.
There are no premises to fail.
Yes. What's your entailment from it has to be natural. Go back to that premise. I'll write it down in Word. Okay. We'll put this in a syllogism, and I'll grant a structure and just give you whatever structure you want. It can just be made up. But I'll just deal with literally the soundness of the premise.
We started off with reality equals reality, and then Khalil took it to some other level of absurdity. So I was
asking you to justify the necessity or contingency of reality within the claim that you made, because there was no statement of that.
Exactly. He took it to some level of absurdity that doesn't need to. He took it somewhere. Keep it simple.
I'm trying to find out why God cannot exist. So if you're going to say that reality is eternal and the necessary thing, well, then obviously there is no God to precede that, right? So that's what I'm asking.
We better get your definition of God before we define him into
a causal principle that is intelligent, that uses free will to actualize the current state of affairs and currently sustains it. There's my definition.
So that doesn't make sense. That's impossible.
Well, hold on. We're getting a little in the weeds. I want to stick on one.
J. Mike, what he said, does that make sense?
Look, I don't agree with his position on God, but I'm trying to focus real fast. We can go to that. I have no problem going to that.
No, but it's a nonsense.
But we haven't got. I just want to grant you, right?
Because if I say
I'm just going to grant you that premise about natural.
God is all nice and all benevolent, and
look, that's fine.
Doesn't make those claims.
Humankind will never suffer under a God if God exists.
God hates kafirs. He's not all nice.
Sidney, you're going to agree that it. Look, let's put a flag in the sand. You're going to agree that no matter what Khalil defines God as, it's going to be impossible. There's no way at which he could define God that, in virtue of the definition or what he says to you, will be possible. Correct? Because you think it's impossible.
There's no way he can define God into existence. Correct.
I agree with that. What I'm saying is he can never actually point it out with listing the properties, right? Because you're just going to say it's impossible. It doesn't. No matter if those properties are. Yes, right. So let's get back to that.
He can list
what makes it a logical impossibility.
He can list whatever attributes he likes for his God. It doesn't really matter. He can go on and on and on. Somebody else can come and give God's attributes which are totally different. I
was just hoping you would at least give a reverse.
We can have 12 people with God definitions that are all totally different to each other, and I'll agree with them all. But the fact is, the actual concept is imaginary. It's not. You cannot define it into existence like you are trying to do, or like.
I agree. You cannot define things into existence. We agree on that, right?
To talk about the attributes.
There's no entailment of impossibility.
To talk about the attributes of something that you cannot define into existence is mere. It's just
Sydney, you would agree that you would agree that thousands of years ago, if I had stated there are potentially these things. Listen, Sydney, real fast. You would agree that if in 1,000 years ago I would have said potentially there are these things called electrons, or more specifically, like not really electrons, but there's these electron clouds, right? And I had predicted this, phenomena, right? That's conceivably possible for me to do, and then we later find out that ontology exists, right? But you are trying to make this, the entailment you're making is that anything imaginary is impossible.
You are wrong, because
that's
if you
the
had said
entailment
that to me 1,000 years ago, I would have said to you, you know what, $3,500 years ago, it was thought out by Socrates and all the other Greek philosophers and thinkers. So you're late to the party, buddy.
No, what I'm trying to point out is that the fact that someone has substantiated a claim doesn't in virtue of that make it the case that the ontology does not exist, right?
Listen,
I was hoping you at least would give a reverse modal ontological argument.
So you're speaking Chinese to him right now, Jay Mike. He doesn't understand.
If it's possible for these electrons to exist and somebody comes up with a theory and it turns out to be true, brilliant. But it's not possible for a God to exist, okay? There's the difference.
Okay, look, what is the logical contradiction in the statement God exists? Where's the logical contradiction? That's a proposition.
That's what I was asking him right before you entered the room.
Where is the contradiction in the proposition God exists?
God exists to who?
No, there's a proposition God exists, okay? Where's the logical contradiction?
There is no logical contradiction.
Then it's not impossible.
Thank you.
But then it is impossible. Because if I say square circles exist, that's impossible. But
it's impossible because of an analytic definition on what squares and circles are.
Exactly. There's what's your definition of God?
Sidney, you're completely lost in the sauce. You don't get it, bro.
What's your definition of God? God is something that you define into existence. So either way, you lose. You lose the whole track. You lose the whole track.
Jay, we're not going to get anywhere.
Of course you're not going to get anywhere because there is no God to talk about.
No, because you're just not philosophically equipped for this conversation.
It's not about there is no God or not. I agree with your conclusion. I think the arguments you get there don't make any sense.
That's why another atheist had to come in here and try and correct you.
We're going to talk about the Jewish God. You're going to and Khalil wants to talk about the Muslim God. And maybe Jay doesn't want to talk about any.
Look, I just want people I want people to have good arguments. I just don't think the conclusion that we both share is warranted on your side. It might not be warranted on my side, but like at least like I'm pointing out flaws in how I get to my conclusion.
Could we do this?
The fact is that gods do not exist, and that's not something that I want to debate because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time.
Okay, so Sidney, would you be willing to hear J Mike's argument for I don't know, J Mike, are you agnostic atheist, or are you a strong?
Like philosophically I want to align strong, more so like
would you have an argument
I have like
that
a
leads
knockdown
to the same
premise
conclusion?
argument for it, but it's really
How about logically? Because when I spoke to Khalil...
That's what we're talking about, Sidney.
Yeah, so like...
Listen to me. When I spoke to Khalil last time, he made a difference between his philosophical belief in God and his logical belief in God.
Certainty. Philosophical and psychological certainty, right, because I hold the fallible knowledge.
Exactly. There you go. So are you the same way, J Mike?
What, fallible? Yeah, I guess I'm a fallibilist, yeah.
All right, carry on.
So essentially it would be like I'm a strong atheist under like fallibilistic principles, right? Like I don't think that I'm a big so real fast, Sidney, stop. I'm a real big.
What is this?
God damn it, dude.
I'm a strong atheist, but you can't do that to me.
Yeah. So if you let me explain, I can give you the but part, right? So this is just dependent on what other people mean, right? They just might go, no, what I mean by that word is not that, and that's fine. I just wanted to let you know what I mean. I don't really care about what the word is. What I mean is that I do not think gods exist, but when we come down to my knowledge of it, I'm a skeptic on knowledge, right? So I'm just going to kind of already say that.
Why can't
because again,
why can't
stop,
you say
holy
something?
shit!
Why can't you say something like God is love and that's the end of the story?
Stop! I'm not a theist.
No, but why can't you accept that and that's the end of the story?
Because I think that doesn't make any fucking sense, because love is already something that we can identify. I'm not going to attach some other thing to it metaphorically. It's not what it means.
Okay, so you have a problem with God. So
anyway, so because of me, and I think Khalil might have, since he's a fallibilist, maybe for different reasons, but because of like Gettier cases and things that undermine justification, I'm a skeptic through and through. So
Correct.
I'm a bit in a position where it's like, I want to be charitable in a philosophical discussion and take the hard position, because it's, you know, I think that's, yeah, I just think it's just better to not take the position of like, I don't know, when you're in a debate. I think it's better for both people to kind of take an affirmative, right? That's why I like debating anti-realism and realism, because I can take an affirmative about anti-realism of morality, and the other person can take realism, and we can kind of go through that. So everything's underlined with fallibilistic assessments, though, so you can change my mind. But also, you know, I'm just the person that's a skeptic, so I'm just going to admit, yeah, I can concede to you that for all I know, I'm a brain to fucking fat.
Could you have conceived of God without having gone through any of the many different scriptures, or the one that you did?
I've never been a theist like that. I was like a spiritualist. So when I read the Bible or the Quran, it was just, nothing resonated. It seemed obviously false, just like any other fable that I read. And that's not a good argument, but that's my perception as a human. When I had to dive more into it.
Did you learn about the concept of God from these Bibles?
Pretty much. I didn't have it really forced down my throat as a kid. So
that was my question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think someone like mentioned God to me when I was like 8, and I was like, "What? What is that?" Like, this, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a thing. My mom's Catholic, my dad's Catholic, but they're at a secular household.
So why do you think people who follow a religion are so angry when it comes to people?
I'm angry and I don't follow in a religion. What are you talking about? Huh? These topics matter, man. Everybody has the right to get angry.
Why should
it's fun? I don't know. I find it fun.
Atheists exist?
Look, I'm a fan of professional wrestling, okay? So I love the back and forth, like the heel face, the fight. Like I love it. So for me, like I think the passion's great. I don't really care what you believe in. I just care if you're willing to defend it. That's all. I get why other people are taking the position of going, hey, you know what? I don't have a burden to prove.
You do it so,
I get that, because it's scary to take that leap.
But you guys, both of you do it so aggressively, as if like you really have to be. You have to be.
I can't speak for him, but I just take it more seriously than giving arguments like only naturalism can exist.
Well,
and anything else is impossible, because I just don't see how that is a logical contradiction. The fact that someone can be an atheist, like, look, if you got like Danny up here to have a conversation with you about that, because I'm not a non-naturalist, like he would just show you exactly why.
What's a Danny?
It's just someone I know. I mean, I'm not expecting you to know him, but.
So why am I talking about Danny? Why don't you talk about?
Because he has a non-naturalist, atheistic position.
Yeah, but
so it's relevant to your premise that doesn't make any sense.
How do you say non-naturalist? What does that even mean?
It means not natural.
There's no. What is that? I don't get that concept.
I'm a naturalist, but it doesn't mean that the position, not P, could not be potentially possible.
I don't understand what non-naturalism entails, because I can't conceive it. Help me out.
Yeah, if you can't, so that's what I said earlier. It seems that your perception is like inconceivability equates to like logical contradiction.
Help me out.
But like in virtue of a proposition, God doesn't exist, you couldn't point out where the contradiction is.
Yeah, because there is no God. You understand? Something doesn't exist. You can't.
Or God exists. Sorry.
You can't say, "Oh, there's the God that doesn't exist." I've just proved it. I've just shown to you that.
Well, look. This is why I said earlier, I wish you would have provided some like reverse modal ontological argument, because then it was something that's like, okay, I just buy into S5 and that something that's possibly necessary, if we just say it's possible that God doesn't exist, right? Therefore it's possibly necessary, then you just go to make the conclusion that it doesn't exist or whatever. Right? I get that. You just take the reverse. Sure. But that's a better argument than just like it has to be non-natural or whatever you said, or it has to be natural starting. You have to relay the premise to me because it didn't even.
Well, you still haven't explained non-natural. It doesn't sound.
I'm not a non-naturalist. I'm just saying that
I don't understand. I don't understand.
You got to point out the contradiction
non-natural,
for it to be off the table.
Non-natural doesn't exist. I can't point out anywhere that it can't possibly exist.
If you just say it doesn't exist, that's fine. But if you can't point out the contradiction, then I just take that as a concession that you don't have an argument.
Now all you're trying to do is be pedantic or be whatever it is you're trying to be to show that you're maybe some kind of smarty pants.
I think if you're tracking what I'm saying,
if you want to be a smarty pants, then just say I want to be a smarty pants. Just say I want to be a smarty pants.
I would just take that if I'm being a smarty pants, then that means I'm hitting the right points or something. So I appreciate it.
Okay, there you go. Take it as you wish.
Look, I'm just trying to point out that when you make statements like I don't know what that is, it's inconceivable, therefore it's impossible, right? Like, unless you can actually give an argument why there's a contradiction, it's just a concession that you don't have anything to offer.
That's your stipulation.
I just wish you'd do a solid for me and provide me the argument where there's an entailment of a contradiction.
They've obviously muted my mic and they can't hear anything I'm saying.
I can hear everything you're saying. I haven't heard the contradiction.
That's because you're on a one-track mind. You're wearing blinders in this conversation, and I suggest you remove them.
I'm not wearing blinders. I'm an atheist. I'm a naturalist. We share the same position, dude.
So then why are you hucking?
I'm not trying to be a bully. I'm not trying to be mean. Look, I just don't take I'm not going to go up to a theist that says Jesus rose and not grill them on it the same way someone says God is a logical impossibility if I don't agree with the statement. I'm not going to just pick a camp because I'm friends with atheists or something. It has nothing to do with that, right? So I'm going to this is the way I am. It's nothing personal.
What's wrong with being friends with atheists?
Oh, I am friends with atheists. I'm friends with a lot of theists.
Right, but what's wrong with being friends with atheists?
Nothing. A lot of my friends are atheists. There's nothing to do with that.
Do you have any friends who are not atheists?
I volunteer for the atheist community of Austin.
No, who are not atheists.
Huh?
Do you have any friends who are not atheists?
Yes. I love people who are not atheists. I have deep love for them.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Do you have deep love for everybody, like a humanist?
No.
Hey, Sidney. Sidney, you know J Mike's known me for like 2 years now?
I did not know that. I did not know anything about J Mike. I think I've seen the name or heard the name or whatever, yes. But
yeah, if you watch the ACA, like the channels like Talk Heathen,
I don't. I watch what do they call themselves? V and Eric.
Nice. Cool.
That's where I go.
Yeah, that's
Skeptic. No, it's Skeptic.
Yeah, they were on Talking, and they do. Yeah, Skeptic Generation.
Since they've moved to Skeptic Generation, I only watch Skeptic Generation. I do not watch.
Cool. No, shout out. I mean, look, everybody can watch what they want, but shout out
because they are the best. They're the best duo. They are the best duo. They were the best duo on Talk Heathen. And they've stepped it up a notch now that they've moved over to their own gig on Skeptic Generation.
Well, look, I'm nothing more than appreciative for the audience and everybody that's invested in that to be a part of that. That's a great thing for anything, any YouTube channel, any following. It's a good thing, except for cult stuff. Maybe I should tread lightly. And I'm talking about New Age spiritualist stuff. There's some crazy YouTube channels, by the way, actualize.org. But anyway, Sidney. So I gotta go soon, but I want to know where the logical contradiction is. Because I came on here to talk more about theism, but
you came on.
Like when you make the claim about impossibility,
you came on here to talk about theism.
Talk because I let the theist and the atheist. But if you can't provide the simple task that I ask, which is the logical contradiction, then I just think it's a bad argument.
Fine. Then we'll agree to disagree, and you'll have to leave disappointed.
Yeah, I would just have to leave that you made a claim and didn't feel the need
Yeah,
to
however you like to spin it, that's fine with me.
I mean, it's just a claim.
Because all you're going to do is spinning it so he can feel better at the end of the day, and he's quite entitled to. He's within his rights.
Yeah, but what he's saying is that every time
he can speak for himself.
Hey, Darth, can you not overtalk me?
He can speak for himself. Hey, excuse me. He can speak for himself.
Darth, can you not overtalk me, please?
He can speak for himself.
Hey, Darth.
Stop speaking for him.
Hey, J. Mike, do you mind if I speak for you for a second?
You're good.
Cool, thank you. So, Sidney.
Yes. Now that's different.
What J. Mike is saying is that you are making claims that you have no substantiation for, and when we ask you to substantiate, you simply just say that it's axiomatic. So I could literally say that God exists and that's an axiom, right?
That is an axiom. That is an axiom, dude.
No, it's not. It is not. It is not.
Don't you understand what an axiom is?
No. An axiom is not an excuse or a crutch to hold your own worldview without substantiation. That's what
God exists is axiomatic.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You don't know what an axiom is.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
Fine. Then we'll agree to disagree on that too.
Oh my God! So you can't come to knowledge. So a God is there's a logical contradiction that a God could exist in a possible world, and you couldn't come to the knowledge. There's something called a posteriori knowledge. It means empirical. So you're saying that a posteriori knowledge is not possible of God. There's a contradiction there. Please show me the contradiction, because you'll make me a stronger atheist if you do.
I'm not here to tickle your tummy, my friend.
You will make me the strongest atheist of all time.
I have absolutely no. I have no interest. I've no interest. I've no interest.
Throw an atheist brother a bone if you say it's impossible.
No. I'm callous. I'm callous, and I'm walking right past you without dropping you a nickel.
I feel like any other theist that's saying it's impossible for God not to exist, theist is going to DM them after that Discord conversation.
Oh, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them to do that. Spread it everywhere.
You know, like, I don't know. Khalil, if like you knew someone and they were like, I have like a knockdown argument that only Allah could exist, like, would you not like DM that person and be like, I want that argument, I want to go over it?
I can't believe that you guys are still here. You're not out there DMing this whole thing to everybody in the universe.
I would be just short of kissing their feet.
Yeah, and so as an atheist, I just want to know that cooking recipe, man. I want to bake those cookies. I want to make atheist cookies for all my friends. Like, come on, help me out.
What he's saying is that you just saying that it's an axiom is not good enough.
It's not good enough.
When you came in here, you
Exactly.
saw that it was an axiom. You saw it in the description that was an axiom, and it's not debatable.
No, like here's an example of an axiom that I believe that we all have. That reality is real. We hold that as an axiom because there's no way for us to prove that we're not a brain in a vat, like J. Mike said. That is something that we must
That is a
take
nonsense.
as an axiom.
No, that is a nonsense statement. There's no way to
hold on,
prove.
Sidney,
There's no way to prove. There's no way to prove that we're not a brain in the vat.
Yes, there's no way. It's called the hard problem solipsism.
Sidney, now okay, oh my gosh.
That is
oh my
ridiculous.
gosh. Now
Oh,
you're going
J
into
Mike,
principle,
J
but
Mike,
there's no way
J
that
Mike.
Now God can't be an impossibility. because
J Mike,
who's creating you in the brain
J
of that in the first place?
J
What are you
Mike,
talking about?
J Mike. Melodrama does not become you. Relax.
Look, just treat it as candy for the audience or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
whatever.
It's entertainment. Okay.
All right.
Like just.
I just don't.
You shouldn't either.
I don't want to lose too many subscribers because of you.
You'll gain more subscribers.
I don't think
so.
Okay. Well, in that case, come in more often and freak out as much as you want.
Look, we're in show business, baby. Okay, I aim to please and argue the points. Okay, so Sidney, damn it, now we're getting off task. So, could you, in virtue of literally what you had just said, like you just went against, right? Like you just said, that we could be a brain in a vat we wouldn't know, right?
Did I say? Did I say?
How would you
Did
not know that
did
God
I?
wouldn't be the one
Did
orchestrating
no? Did I?
deception?
Did I say that, Jamie?
You know what I mean? You just conceded
Did-
that it's not an impossibility.
Did I say that, Jamie? Did I say we could be a brain in the vat?
You conceded,
I
you just
said
don't
to
know
you,
what the view
I said to
entails.
you that whole brain in the vat argument is silly, absurd, ludicrous.
But okay, so maybe I heard you wrong. Did you not just concede that we could not know the fact of whether or not?
No. He thinks that we can. He thinks
Oh, okay,
that we
okay,
can.
sorry.
And
Okay,
he thinks that it's
I was
not
gonna
an
say,
axiom.
holy shit, my bad. That's totally my bad. I heard it wrong.
No problem. I accept that we're all
I was just
human
about to say, you
and
just
fallible.
contradicted yourself.
I certainly would have
But
if that was the
here's
truth.
my thing. Here's my thing, Sidney. How were you able to justify that your reality is real?
Because there's one reality. There's one reality.
Without taking the reality. Hold on. Without taking that reality is real as an axiom.
I do take it as an axiom.
Just a minute ago, you said you didn't. You said that's nonsense. When I said that,
Reality is reality.
Hold on. Can I not be interrupted, Sidney? You need to take another one of those anxiety
Oh,
pills
come
that you
on.
have next to you.
Stopping silly and stopping condescending, okay? Reality is reality. I've said that 100 times, and you've tried to twist it every single time that that you bring it up.
I had coffee
literally
with
just
T-Joe
said a
2 days
second
ago,
ago.
and so it's just funny that you say that to me, because like that's like the meme, right?
Okay.
But
Well, talking about anxiety pills. It's not quite anxiety, but you know, when I said coffee, I had forgotten to actually switch it on, and now it's ready. So I'm going to get my caffeine.
sure.
Okay.
If I'll take my leave, gentlemen, I'll be right back.
No worries. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean, I'm glad you're here, Jay, Mike, because I mean, this is something that I've been.
I'm putting up a Word document, and I'm going to try, like, maybe we can get premises. If not, it's fine. I've been up since 3 a.m, so I have not slept. Been working a early job, but I'm down to really, like, get this down, because and anyone that's like, oh, Jay Mike's just being an asshole or whatever, like, you know, look, if someone's saying God is impossible, I fucking want to know that. Okay, I'm an atheist. I want to fucking know that that's the case. If you don't have an argument for it, I just have no. I talk to people a lot about this. I'm like done having patience. I sympathize with one of my co-hosts, Matt Dillhunty, so much on being short-tempered about it, because getting off track just pisses me off. And nothing against Sidney, but if you make a claim, I want to go fucking through it. I'm like over this whole like diverting and then talking about something else, because every time I have conversations where it's not managed, it goes in like 7 different directions, and you can never get back to the first point.
Well,
it's just an obfuscation of the entire first claim.
How about we get a woman? How about we get some female influence in here? Rebel, would you like to join us and contribute?
Any influence would be great.
Contribute a calming influence, please.
Calming?
This isn't going to be calm, J Mac. She's very, very spiritual.
So why would
like New Age spirituality?
No, she's
like all of the holy books are like true type spiritual.
No, she's Christian.
Oh, okay.
She was reasoning.
I feel like New Age spiritualist is like on the top tier of the.
She's a new Christian.
Okay, yeah, that's. I just the only people
but more than that,
I just think it's like a marketing movement to scam people.
More than that, God is love. Why do we need anything else? And that's what I proposed to you guys earlier, and you didn't seem to like that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Sidney. You said propose what to us?
I proposed to you that one sentence: God is love. Why do we need to take it any further than that?
Is that a statement of identity?
That doesn't mean anything.
How does it not? Oh, really? Rebel.
Yeah, it's like saying I believe you in my heart. My heart pumps blood. I don't need to make up new meanings for something that does something.
So God is love doesn't mean anything.
That is a made up thing.
God is love is a made up thing.
It's metaphorical. Okay, so it doesn't. So if you were to say
Well,
God
unless
is
the
love,
person thinks love
to,
comes from God's nature, I guess, then no.
well, yeah, but then there's still like when you say God is love, it's kind of like saying the Father is God. Is that a statement of predication or is it a statement of numerical identity? Does it like follow Leibniz's law?
That's a good point. That's actually a very good point, because if someone takes like a divine simplicity standpoint, then we have no predication about God because all the properties
Exactly.
are right. So there's this whole
Yeah,
okay.
but the axiom would be God is love.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's not an axiom. It's just like you have to like go for like I don't know, like that seems like a troll type of statement. Like, hey, this is like right. I could just be like, water is H2O is an axiom. It's like, but that actually has more meaning in terms of like an analytic definition. We still wouldn't start like, why would we start an axiom there? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, what am I basing knowledge off of?
So you're showing more and more that you don't really have an argument for anything.
Okay, are you really trying to obfuscate the fact that you haven't substantiated the claim that you think
I
is a
certainly,
that
that is exactly what I'm doing. Yes.
Okay, that's just wanted to put it on record.
Alrighty then.
I can't wait to have this clip on my channel.
You can do whatever.
I can't wait till you put it up.
Are you okay with me doing this, Mike?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are great.
And I think this is very important for you. Like, if you on your channel, like this is just a suggestion. There's a lot of atheists out there that probably argue like Sidney does, and maybe you could use this clip as like a lecture. Like, use this as an example to show this is
an example how to create atheists. I agree with you, 100%.
You're not creating atheists. I think you're.
Oh my friend, I am creating. I'm creating atheists. I'm creating atheists. Okay.
Sidney, look.
God is love.
And if you go onto my channel, me and Cease debate on moral
I
realism
say
like every other episode.
I say that God is love.
Is that a statement of identity or predication?
Hello, Rebel. Welcome. You're muted. You're still muted.
So, like...
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to my channel.
You know, I've been here before.
Yes. I just want to give you an axiom and tell me if it is an axiom. God is love. Is that an axiom?
So why are we on infinite feedback?
Somebody's mic is...
Oh, I think you did the same thing I did, and
your YouTube is on.
YouTube's still open.
Your YouTube is open, Rebel.
Because I'm stupid. Okay, there we go.
I did this. Hey, Rebel. I did the same thing when I came in, so I'm glad you did it, because now I feel like there's at least two dumb people.
Every single person has the same problem whenever they get into the first time they get into, or not even the first time.
Well, it's like you think you close out, and then you realize, like, nah, I'm just dumb. I missed the end.
No, you don't. You don't think of the obvious, and we all do that. Anyway, irrelevant, axiomatic or not, God is love.
Yeah. Let me just respond to something really quickly. I think it's really funny that Khalil described me the way he did, because I think within the people that I work with in my organization, they would think I'm a heretic because, you know, I don't need all this shit, right? Like, so what you need to know about me is that I was a third generation atheist, and I don't even know, you know, like when you guys talk about all this, it really cracks me up, because when I stumbled across this platform and this group, like, my family was so atheistic that we didn't even know who Christopher Hitchin was, because we don't talk about what doesn't exist, right? You don't search out what doesn't exist, and it's not even there's not even anger around it. There's not even an argument around it. Just, oh, I see other people believe in that. Got it, right? So it really is interesting. And so my experience, so my experience in this community was really kind of interesting, because I never fit in with the atheist, because I'm far too compassionate, empathetic. I'm
gotcha. That's humanist,
right?
That's interesting.
And I'm not batshit crazy like the fundamentalists are, that are just, they're completely off the rails and really ruining society as far as
Yeah. Oh, look, Rebel. I think we're all. I can't believe you there because I think we're all a little batshit crazy, to be honest.
well, yeah, but that's what makes us special, man.
Yeah,
That's what makes
exactly.
us special.
So, all of us, to some degree, are fucking just crazy. I talk to
Yeah.
myself in my room, so I know I'm a little nuts. But anyway, what I wanted to say was, yeah, I when they said spiritualist or whatever, I was like, if you're coming in as a spiritualist, I'm gonna grill this person so hard. But I'm glad that I've never been glad to say I'm glad a Christian came in here. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
Well, so here's who I am. So like, I don't even know what you mean by spiritualist because everybody has their own
I just feel
definition
like
for all
crystal
this shit,
clutchers.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, so here's the thing. Here's what I am. Right. Like, I have been working in service of humanity my entire life. That's been my get down. And when I lost my mind literally and had a major breakdown, I had to rebuild who I was and figure out, because I came from a lot of trauma. And so kind of had to get my shit together and really do some deep soul searching and change some things about my life, because now I'm in control, and whatever happened to me in the past was the past, because it's people who hurt us, right? It's not any mythical God, because where was that God when my mother was dragging me down the hallway by the hair at 6 years old and beating me senseless? Like, there was a time when I thought to myself, well, there better not be a God of the Bible, because why was he sitting there watching, right? But that's not how I understand God. That is not what the God of my understanding is, right? And this is where we fucking get in trouble, right? We get in trouble in the place that we sit around and we walk around this earth while we're all hurting. We walk past the homeless. We blame the homeless and addicts for having some kind of moral defect, when all the experts are going, well, you know what? All addiction comes from trauma, unresolved trauma. And the ACE childhood scores are saying that if you meet 7 or more of these criteria, your ability to become an addict is, exponentially higher than if you had some, whatever normal upbringing, right? What gets me is that in John 14:12, the letters, the thing that Jesus says, right? So if we just take the story for what it is, like, we don't even argue whether Jesus was the Son of God or whether God exists in the Bible or whatever. But if this man existed, or any man like him, and said the words, because at this time in the Bible, Jesus knows he's going to die, right? And everybody's freaking out, going, what are we going to do without you? And that's our selfish fucking nature, right? Because this man who people have decided is the Messiah, he says he's going to die, and they want to know what's going to happen to them. Like, this man is about to lose his life, right? But that's how selfish we are. So that's the story in that for me. And Jesus kindly says, look, if you believe in my Father, other men will do even greater things than I have done. And I'm like, why don't we hear that more often? Why don't we hear that Jesus has commanded us to say we are capable of doing great things? That means taking care of people who suffer. That means understanding that when people grow up in drug addicted homes, homelessness, with parents that are incarcerated, with people who believe in fucking QAnon, they're raising children, right? When we have people, whole cities worth of people living under bridges. And I've worked with these people for years. I've cared for them. I've rescued them. And to sit back and watch the world suffer. And then when I lost the ability to work in 2013, because PTSD had got me, because being a medic for 25 years and being a front row witness to the suffering of humanity, when I rolled into this place and I saw this bullshit going on, I went, oh, nobody fucking cares. Nobody really cares, right? Nobody really cares, because these arguments are not about God, right? And every day people continue to suffer. So when I roll in here, I just find out, oh, people are suffering. It's not just the homeless. It's not just the untreated mentally ill. It's all of us, right? We're all suffering, and we all have the ability to do better and be better, but we choose. And that includes me right now, because I swore when I left this community that I would never come back. And I wasn't a believer when I left. But what changing my life, being accountable to myself, taking responsibility for myself so I could be better to other human beings, that's where I found God. And God doesn't have any kind of flowing beard or any kind of anything. He's doing the right thing the right way every time, no matter what, no matter who's watching and no matter who's not.
Okay. Can I
And our world is
ask a few
fucking
questions?
on fire. Yeah.
Okay, because like, so I would disagree with a lot of that.
Sure.
Because like I don't. So like I don't. None of that to me elucidates on how you know that the thing exists, right? Like
I've never said the thing exists. I said
okay,
I
but
believe.
why do you take a specific doctrine of Christianity with like very specific entailments of angels and demons and resurrection of men that?
Did I say?
Are you
I
not
was
a Christian? So I thought you were.
Did I say I was a Christian, or did somebody else say that?
You started talking about Jesus and God.
What? So Jews believe that Jesus existed. They just don't believe that he was a son of God.
Sure. So do you believe in Yahweh God?
I don't know what that means, right? Because I don't have
Elohim?
To me. So here, no. I don't subscribe to that stuff. That's all man-made shit, right? It's all man-made stuff. So what I know is what I feel. And what I know is that when I act in a way that is loving to other human beings, when I meet them where they're at, when I continue to do for others, I feel a sense of peace and serenity that I only can imagine is some kind of supreme being. Now, I have to live in this world, right? I don't have the ability to create an entire organization out of thin air, right? So I work for an organization that feeds, clothes, houses, and heals humanity. Do I agree with everything they do and everything they believe? No. But there's 40,000 different denominations of Christianity alone, and not any of them agree, right? You and Sidney are quote unquote atheists, and you don't even agree, right? So I don't have to define myself. God tells me in my conversations with him. Listen, God tells me in my conversations with him, don't be bothered by anybody else. You just keep helping your fellow human beings.
You seem kind of bothered right now, though.
Well, hold on. Yeah, so like, I understand.
No. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Look, I understand, Rebel. You don't have to be like a part of one specific thing. My only thing is, how do you know whatever the specific thing is that you believe in actually exists and isn't?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, well, that was the only question. Then that's fine. Yeah, sorry. Continue, guys.
Yeah, so the whole thing,
if that was a claim of or not. That's all. That's all I want to know.
No, that's the thing. This whole conversation is a Kobayashi Maru. It is the unwinnable. It's never been proven and never.
Well, if you say you don't know and you just admit that, I'm not going to be. I have no need to press that, right? Because that's what I would call like just humility and just saying, hey, look, I'm being honest, and so I appreciate that. So
you can't say that you have faith in something if you say you believe it. I mean, if you say it's true,
let me real fast, Rebel, contrast that to the conversation we were having before to Sidney and why I was pressing, because he's making not just like a claim, he's making a claim of like Cartesian certainty, because his claim entails a logical contradiction when he makes the statement that God exists is a logical contradiction. I'm an atheist, but I don't see. I'm asking for the silver bullet there, because if it's the case that he has the silver bullet that God doesn't exist, that would be awesome. But
so here's the thing, Axiom.
So I'll back off. Call me J Mike, by the way. I'll back off you, Rebel. But Sidney, I can't.
J Mike,
because you're making specific claims that you can't substantiate.
J Mike, you know when you lost the argument, babe? You know when you lost the argument?
No, there's no losing the argument.
I know, but when you said I love WWH or whatever and this is showbiz, baby. Like,
don't even go there.
Like, no shit, buddy.
Don't judge me.
I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you.
Don't judge me.
Listen. I get it. Like, I watch this with a fair amount of laughter that goes along with it. But I hop in here because I realize.
I'm just saying, I believe in fake things too, like wrestling. No.
Well, yeah, whatever. Like, whatever. But still, here's
the thing. Guys, we can get along. I believe in fake things too.
Like, when I was working down at the homeless encampment with 500 people, right? When you walk amongst these people and you live with them and you extend your hand and you meet them where they're at and you listen to their stories and you see human suffering, dude, tell me there isn't something we should believe in, and I think it's humanity, right? If you want to call it God, I don't care. Whatever you call it, I don't
think
care.
the problem is that's very emotional and not very logical. Like we can feel the emotion for a lot of different things. Like
Exactly.
I think what J. Mike and myself are more interested in is not what can my emotions make me feel like I want to believe in. What actually, like, that's why when J. Mike says, I want to know the arguments. Like, if he says he's making this claim, I want to know the argument that makes it true, not just because I believe that it's true and then I'm going to just call it an axiom and call it a day. Like, he wants to know exactly why. So, like I do
We're not
feel
supposed to know
your
why.
experiences and
We're
your
not
story
supposed to know why.
Hold on.
We're not
Yeah, but
supposed
that's
to
also
know
a
why.
claim
Your
too.
story is
Let Cleo finish.
Your story is very heartfelt, and I heard your story the other night about yourself and your own journey, and I'm a recovered addict myself, so I can feel you there, like on an emotional level, I can feel you. But if we're going to take those personal experiences and turn those into arguments for the existence and say there's got to be something out there, I just don't agree with that.
Sure, I get that. So I would question a lot of things on that. First of all, why use the word emotion as a pejorative? Like, that's kind of silly, considering that's inherent in us, that emotions have a purpose and they're to convey certain emotions and personality traits and behaviors and desires, part of our communication process, right? So there's that. So then I get that. So that, but then, like, why?
But can I
what
respond to that?
what is it that you think you're going to gain by getting the answer that no human has yet to be able to answer?
Closer to the truth. But the first thing that you said is.
But what are you going to do with the truth?
You said, oh no, that's cool. But hold on. So the emotions thing. Let's tackle that real quick before we move on to something else. Have your emotions ever led you down a path of falsity?
Oh, all the time, man.
Okay, so then why would you say it's reliable? It is pejorative.
No, well, pejorative. Are we using the same word the right way?
Yes. Do you know what the difference and distinction between a logical argument and an emotional argument?
Absolutely. Again,
okay, so why
that's
are we
not what
using
I'm saying.
emotional arguments?
Well, because logic has no play. If you're talking about God, right, and if you're talking about humans have emotions. So logic, I mean, how can you separate the two?
Very easily by appealing to emotions and doing something illogical or irrational. That would be a negation of logic due to the fact that I appealed to emotions instead.
Yeah,
sure, and you know, I've sat through these arguments like years. I don't know.
Well,
how
hold on, Rebel. I just
like
want to say,
years.
like, I'm someone that thinks that, like, logic, for example, like, is atemporal, right? And so, like, I'm gonna say that these things are just completely mind independent, right? These inference rules that we can follow, it's either indicative of the behavior of existence, or it's which I don't agree with, or it's a prescriptive nature of the way that nature should behave. And in either case, it's going to be mind independent.
Right. So
whether or not we have, there's at least some phenomena which we're describing, is what I guess.
Right. So let me ask you something. I know I have a purpose for why I choose to live the way I live, because that's how I'm going to call it, the way I live, the way I live. What I believe is only as much as I can know, right? And I too use a lot of logic because I teach critical thinking to people who are highly paranoid. And so I have to reinforce reality on a regular basis, because logic is what gets you out of a lot of sticky situations when your mind is not right. So I live a certain way, right? I walk it like I talk it. And I don't push my ideas on anybody, because also I understand that I believe very different than most whatever tradition. I mean, I don't even know what to call myself, in all honesty. I'm ethnically a Jew. I'm ethnically a Jew, right? And so, but I love the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? The red letters that are in the Bible, and whatever is left out of the Bible, I like those. The rest of the stuff, I don't need to argue about whether a census was done and everybody had to come back and blah 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 and all this other stuff. And most of those stories are all just, parables. And if you look at them, there's kind of a lesson about human personalities. That's why there's all the archetypes and all that stuff. So, for me personally, just for me and in the way I live my life,
Sure.
I don't need all that stuff, right? I like.
So you're not looking at the red letters and being like, how do I know that the red letters?
I don't give a shit. It's nice.
Like what they like. So like A, we assume Jesus said them, but are they in like the order that he said them? And then B,
who cares?
Do we? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, see, to me, that's illogical. It is illogical. It's totally
so then,
illogical.
yeah, we just have a difference then. But
right,
I can understand that if you
just
take that differently, then all we could do is argue about why that's the case. But it sounds like you're like, look, that's not the thing I'm interested in it.
Yeah, it's not. Well, and that's what baffles me about this community, right? Like, what are you arguing for? Like, if I mean, we all have cameras. Whip your dicks out, boys. Let's see who's bigger, right? Like, that's what it sounds like. Or the ultimate of human greed. I want to know the secrets of the universe. If a God did exist, as in under anybody's definition, whatever it defines, do you think that he's going to give you the keys to the castle? Like, fuck, we're all idiots. Like, what do you think I mean, God would have to be smarter than everybody. Things we couldn't imagine. Like, I don't ever, like, I pray regularly, right? But I don't pray for things. Like, I don't say, oh God, give me this, or like, that doesn't work that way, man. Like, if you understand what scholars have written about religion, like, God should know everything you think and feel and knows everything you like. It's like everybody, you're being watched all the time. So cool, fair enough. All I have to do is do the next right thing, right? Like, I don't even care, because I couldn't care about what a God would know or wouldn't know. I couldn't outthink him. I don't believe it. I don't believe that a God would be jealous, because that's a maladaptive human emotion. Like, I understand.
I guess I get all that. My thing is that people make knowledge claims towards God. That could be one of them, right? That he just knows more and can kind of articulate this in this way, that the world is structured in a way you'll never even use logic to get there. Or something.
I think that's what I think would be logical.
So I get that. But my thing is, like, we could also have the potential of a God that creates the universe, expels all of its essence, and ceases to exist upon it giving creation, right? There's all these, we could do this ad infinitum, right? Forever. Yeah. And so my problem is that's why I never think any of the claims are justified, merely by like what you would call a priori considerations of just like deductive means or things. You're not going to get there from my perspective. And I don't even think a posteriori, because one, to your kind of point, it could be the case that the thing just chooses deception. Like, all the things planted within the domain I created can never point you empirically to me. I've made it that way, right? Like, that's a possibility, which is further to the point of which is why I don't know why Sidney earlier can make statements of like, it's impossible, because I can have considerations of this certain type of a God that could exist. I'm an atheist. It could be the case they exist. I don't think it's the case they exist. If we go through it, I might have a logical argument to show why that God can't exist in virtue of, what we call logic. But someone could come back with Rebel's point and just say, well, he designed logic this way, right? You could just always do this. And that's my thing, is to say, like, to make one statement of, I can prove it's a logical contradiction. I'm like, okay, that's an extreme that goes on that other side. I really want to see that, because that's a big claim that I don't know that contradictions can be reconciled in virtue of a design God or something. I think that's pretty much the best thing you get to.
Right. And, I'm very aware of my position, and that I can only stay in these rooms for a little bit, because it starts to, like, nobody really wants to talk about the fact that, I'd never come in these places if everybody says, you know what, I did 10 hours of volunteer work down at whatever X, Y, and Z place, and I'm online 10 hours a day arguing God or no God. Like, you put in as much time serving your fellow human being however you want to. Like, you take a stance in human suffering, stare into the eyes of somebody who literally sleeps on the ground, right? And listen to their story and listen to it and understand where they come from, and start seeing what they're up against around city government and around the way other people just walk right past them and pass all kinds of judgment. You live in that world as much as you live in this world to try and define what can never be defined, if it even exists, then I'll never step foot in these places again. But what I believe is like, we don't, so I'm an old bitch, okay? I'm 57 years old. I was raised by atheists, and that didn't do me any good, right? And I'm not saying atheists are bad or godless or soulless or whatever, heartless, because there's some good ones out there. And there's just as many bad people who believe in spirituality. I mean, we all know, Mr. Dawkins, and I'm talking about both of them. I don't like either Dawkins. I don't like either Dawkins, right? So
I agree.
on both sides.
I actually agree with that claim. I don't like either Dawkins either. I mean,
right?
I respect like the work Dawkins has done in like biology, but like that's that's like not him. That's just, I like biology, but yeah, him.
But when I say God is love, like I think that when we look at the philosophers and we look at the academics that are saying, look, guys, we're kind of heading for social collapse, right? And that seems awfully real based on history, based on what we've done in the past. And certainly, the more we don't learn from our past, as we all know, we're destined to repeat it. And there's a lot of innocent children out there that really need us to get our shit together and like try and fix things, because the internet has unleashed a whole different persona, right? And I saw that very clearly when I first got here, right? Every narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, this part of the internet has the highest population of legitimate antisocial behavior disorders, right? Like legitimate. And so, we've got children being taken advantage of all over the place. And that's not to, and that's the other thing, the QAnon people, they take advantage of everybody who has ever been sexually assaulted by saying it's the children, right? Kind of like I'm doing right now. But the fact is that children aren't being harmed, and children grow up to be us, man. And I know the way my life went sideways because somebody was irresponsible with my childhood. And we just stick our dicks and spread our legs for anybody and create children and then just walk away. And then we just go argue about abortion. But then nobody wants to go talk about how to keep yourself, from not getting pregnant, because it's not like it's the Stone Age and we don't know how pregnancy happens. It's just all a big dog and pony show, right? Karen videos coming at us all over the place. Just keep us distracted. I ain't doing it anymore. Right. So whatever God is or isn't to anybody is fine. And I hate to take away any of your fun, because I obviously I can't. But yeah, I'm fucking emotional about it because I suffered enough and I don't want others to suffer like that.
Honestly, I would be interested to hear what, since Khalil brought that point up, I don't know if he's back, but what he'll say. I have to get rolling out of here.
And that's why I don't come into these rooms, because I shoot them down every time. Hey, you guys, I'm going to
I had to leave. I had announced I had to leave like 30 minutes ago, but I don't like cutting people off in the middle of dialogue, so I've had to leave for a minute. But anyway, guys, peace out. Thank you, Sidney, for having me on, and everybody. Appreciate it. And Sidney, if you have an argument for the impossibility of God, shoot it to me.
All right, J-Mac.
I want that card in the back of my pocket every time I talk to
power.
I'll get it to you as soon as I can.
I'll lay it down like it's a fucking Charizard holographic.
I'll get my team to start working on it right away.
Starlight.
Awesome. All right, and again, no hard feelings. All right, see y'all
later.
Bye. Khalil, why do you always pull that emotional shit with me? I'm a female. It's gonna trigger me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that females are just all emotional. It's kind of sexist.
I don't care. I'm neither feminist or doormat. So, I just am a human.
Oh yeah, you seem like you got a backbone, like you got some tough skin. So I respect that about you. I just, when it comes to like arguing, like the way that me and J Mike, we have conversations and we argue with each other. Like you were talking about why are we on here doing this when we could be doing things for, you know, society, which I do. I am required to pay a certain
Right.
amount to charity. Now in Islam, I don't have to pay the church, or I don't have to have it on some kind of books. Like, it's basically just between me and God. So if I want to hand $300 to a homeless man on the side of the highway, I'll do that, and then I'll have paid what I needed to pay. Or if I
That's
want
a
to donate to
mistake,
a specific
Khalil.
charity.
Yeah, I hear
Well,
that. I've stopped giving money. I've stopped giving money to. I do my footwork. I get somebody to the doctor. I make sure I stand in line with them for social services. Don't give people money. It's just that doesn't fix it. It never has. It never has. It's one human walking with another human that makes the difference. Stop giving people money. Make change. Get down to City Hall and demand that your cities do something different for the homeless. Not give them a Taj Mahal,
give me
but
money.
make sure they have some decent food.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
That
Give
has
me
never
money.
fixed it.
Give me money.
I know, Khalil. I know you're doing it. And look, I won't hop in here too many times because I know I don't want to harsh your guys' vibe. I do, though, quite often like to jump in and say, hey, balance this out with some real community service. Because look, at the end of the day, a lot of us here are shut-ins and introverts. A lot of people that listen to these things have not been out for a long time. God knows we are suffering ourselves. And this is the only community we have. And the best way to get something different is to do something different. And so I just come to encourage, right? That's just my part. Like, believe what you want. I really don't care. I support anybody to believe. I am not anti-Islamic. I'm not anti-Jew. I'm not anti-Christian. I'm not anti-anybody. I am anti-fucked up behavior, though. I am anti-isolation. I am anti-selfishness. I am anti all these things that bring us down as people. Like, love your God however you want to, or love your not God however you want to. But let's not let each other suffer anymore.
I am.
No, I get that. I get that.
I am anti-freeze.
Well, when I'm like in these groups, what I'm talking about is like outside of that and helping the community and getting out there and changing the world and making a dent and all that stuff. When it comes to us, I enjoy having these philosophical conversations about the existence of God. And when I'm doing that, I try and leave my emotions out of it because my emotions have led me down the wrong path. So I want to think of things logically and analytically. And then once I'm done with that, then I can go, volunteer down at the homeless shelter.
I got that. So then can I offer up one other thought that I have?
Sure. I would love to.
Okay. So my other thought is, while this is great, and even I am entertained by the whole thing, we have to remember that we have no idea who is on the other side listening. And that there are people, and I hear them all the time, who honestly are not here for the works. They don't think that this has got a showbiz side to it. They don't believe there is a kind of a, like they really believe it. These are the same 73 million people who voted for something very different, right? Like, we have a big problem with misinformation, sophism, and all these problems. That if we are going to have these conversations, that we balance them. I'm not saying stop. Like, you're never gonna. I mean, that's not freedom, right? If you want freedom, you have to allow freedom, but you also have to know the consequences of saying what we want when we want, and not defining. Because everybody wants to argue their worldview here. Right. And well, they don't define their own worldview as much as they tell people what the other guy's worldview is. Right. So we also have to remember to balance this stuff out, because if we want to keep having this fun, like at some point, if you don't see what the people that are pissed off and disenfranchised are doing with school shootings and ransomware and all the other manipulation that's going on, we won't even have it if the wrong person gets a hold of something that they shouldn't get a hold of. So that's real shit, right? That's real. Like, I don't dream about the rapture. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm one of those people that's like, don't. Like, we got too many. If that shit is real, if Christianity is real, I can't have fun up in heaven looking down on everybody while they suffer. Like, what kind of messed up crap is that? Like, so I'm working hard, right, on the ground, out with people, doing what I can. How can I help? You know, making myself, getting my head clear, making sure I understand my dysfunction and my trauma, right? Because the only way you can teach it is when you get out from underneath it, right? And so that's all I ask about this community, is that don't forget that we have some that there are people suffering behind these mics, and they don't always have a logical mind. And so in that respect, it's how we affect others that really makes a difference. And while we're pissing away who's more powerful or who's more logical or who's more right, some people really believe all the rhetoric.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but those people should probably just not be in here listening then if they have that type of problem. Like, I'm not going to stop talking about logic and reason just because some people might be harmed by it or might get some false sense of information from it. But there's false information out there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to know what we should and shouldn't listen to.
Well, but that's because you come from a logical mind. If you have a cognitive deficit, then you don't know that because you've been raised in such a way that you believe these things and you don't know what you don't know. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? And is your freedom without limits on how we affect one another? Does that mean I just walk in everywhere and go, fuck you all, I'm going to believe what I want to believe and you're going to believe what I believe? That's anarchism. That's exactly what's going on in this country. It's like, you must believe what I believe. Otherwise, you're not a patriot. Otherwise, that's anarchy. That's not freedom. Freedom says, yeah, you're right, Khalil. You get to say what you want, but to what end?
Or to the end that I'm not threatening somebody and breaking the law.
Okay, cool. I can buy that. That's the conversations that I'd like to see people have, is like, you know, about our freedoms and where they start and how you have a true freedom when it's only your opinion, when you're fighting for dominance.
Yeah,
because that's what this is all about.
Well, that's not really a conversation that I have on my channel. I'm not really. So I don't specialize in like moral disputes and things like that in politics and when it gets down to the nitty gritty. I simply specialize when it comes into investigating worldviews through internal critiques. That's what I like to do. So there's other people, and that's my niche, and other people have their niche, and we can all come together with our little specialties and all create a big community that talks about all these things. But just because I don't do that and I do something else doesn't mean that somebody else isn't doing that also, and yet not doing what I'm doing, so we can come together and play our roles and, you know, play our part within the community, having conversations about this and that.
Yeah, I would agree.
But hey, I actually got to jump off of here soon, or right now. I just showed up to my next call, so I'm at work right now. So, but it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks, Sidney, for having me on again. And
thanks
you guys
for
have a good day.
Thanks for joining.
Bye. That'll be the last time you ask me on, huh, Sid?
No, thank you very much.
I always know how to bring a room down.
No, but I had things to do. I got to make some coffee and, you know, get something to eat. And you held the fort. Thank you.
I have to admit, it's been very lonely not being able to be a part of the online community anymore. And so I was really reflective the other day when after I came on, and because I swore that I wouldn't do it, right? I wasn't going to play in this arena anymore because I felt so, you know, I felt like its damage was heavier than its help. But I don't know that that's necessarily true. That might just have been the way I was feeling. You know, it kind of goes back to what Khalil was saying about emotions, right? He's not wrong. And so a large part of a lot of the issue I had was being chased off the internet, right? Being bullied and, you know, treated badly. It was very damaging, especially at a time when my PTSD was so bad that like my whole life was falling down around me, and like these strangers that didn't know me, like had no problem just going for the jugular. So it was really actually very interesting to be able to come back and have a conversation and be a part of it. Like, I think sometimes I forgot how how important it was to be included. I think we all want that.
I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct.
I'm so proud of you for keeping things going. Just conversation in and of itself. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether, Khalil's also has another point. We all have our place in this universe, and we all have our place on the internet to be able to talk with one another and challenge one another.
I don't think I was
still stand by.
I don't think I was given a platform in my own room to talk with these before you joined. They were just they were kind of both over talking me and both sort of interrupting. I didn't get a chance to finish a thought, to finish a sentence before they were laughing and giggling and saying to each other, "Oh, this is great! I can't wait to get the clip," and make fun of him and all this kind of stuff.
But that's the game.
That's the game. Yeah, exactly.
That's the game. But I get it. I get it. I mean, nobody wants to not be heard, right? We all have a reason for doing all this stuff, and
that's okay. It's just another day on the
it's
internet.
Okay.
Another day on the internet.
I actually got some time off. I'm trying to do my laundry and get my own schedule going, and here I hopped in here. Now I'm feeling all these feelings of guilt that I've just ruined the room again, and with my
no, not at all. We've been going over 3
peace
hours.
and love. Peace and love, peace and love.
No, you brought the room right down to where it should be.
Oh,
because as soon as I said God is love, and why should we not just stop there? They both disagreed with me, and that was your cue to come in.
Yeah, I when you watch comments and stuff, when you watch chat is we all show our pain, and I think I'm ultra sensitive to listening to people's pain, and they show their pain or their position in the world, with their comments, as I show my, whatever my issue is, with my comments.
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting to watch.
Seems to be a daily feature.
Yeah. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think I'm What?
I said, as we head into winter, it shall just continue to be a daily feature.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just happen to have a little extra time, but I appreciate you calling me in. It was quite nice. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome back anytime. I think I'm going to end it right here anyway, because it's long enough and I've got things to do. And nobody else seems to be coming in. So
God, I'm a real room killer.
Well, I'll probably have a room open later if you want to come and kill it.
I work at 1:30, so I'll be busy. But you know me, I'm always listening.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Always listening. It's always a good time to hear your debates. I'm waiting for something new to come up.
Yeah, me too. All right.
All right, man.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Have a good shift. Be safe.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, I think I'll call it a day on this one, huh? We could possibly do this again sometime soon. When we're gonna do it, I don't know. Later on, I'm gonna have lunch and a nap, and it's only 11 o'clock in the morning. I've got things to do. I have to go pick up some dog food, and that means going out. And to go out, I have to prepare, and you know how awfully time-consuming that is. So everybody, thank you again. Come back later.